Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Everybody's working for the weekend. Everybody wants a second chance. Everybody's going out the deep end. All right. Happy Thursday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, except not today, because today JB actually had an appearance at a panel. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. We have a good show for you tonight. The theme is all the King's Men. And what does that mean? You'll see when we get into tonight's stories. Ladies and gentlemen, we have so much to discuss. Obviously, a lot of you guys know that Luigi Mangion was brought to trial today in New York. We're also going to cover that story as well. So just FYI. Let's go ahead and start out by giving shout outs to people in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Kawani said, Sabby, I just opened an Amazon credit card. Gosh dang capitalism. To right this wrong, I'm in the works of starting a community coalition. Can't wait for your class from California. Awesome. That's good news to hear. Yeah. For those who are not aware, I did announce that I will be hosting mutual aid workshops come 2025. So stay tuned for that. Shout out to CBC Voter says, happy Thursday, Sabby and Eric. What's up, CBC Voter? Greetings, Mikkel's real great again. You're going to let Bezos F you twice. Shout out to Miguel says, peace. Greetings, S. Jarrah. Happy Thursday, everyone. Free Luigi, free Palestine. Greetings, Tim, though. I'm so over TYT and Cenk. I knew he was BS when he let PBD pod clown Nina Turner for being too black to his face. Oh, I missed that. Huh. That must have been one of the other times he was on there. I missed that one. You'll have to send that to me. That's interesting. Sabby and Cenk laughed. Not me, because I haven't seen it. Cenk is a bullied kid trying to get the cool kids to like him. We'll get into all of that tonight. Greetings, I know myself. Trudeau is too pretty. I have been told to be head of their government. Never good when a man thinks he is too good looking. It's interesting. Shout out to Lauren, says free Palestine. Greetings, Hannah, says that photo of Stephen A is funny. That is a funny photo. Greetings, DJ. What's up, beautiful lady? Another great day to be hanging out with Sabby and the RBN fam. And we have to support our workers. Union strikes with holding labor/worker co-ops. 100% agree with you. I just had a conversation with Professor Richard Wolff yesterday. We recorded that interview that should post on Monday. And one of the things that we did discuss was worker co-ops. So stay tuned for that. Shout out to New York Varsity, says, let's go, shooby-dooby-doo. Greetings, Bill. I like to get here early to see if Sabby is singing on the hot mic before the beat drops. Ha, ha, ha. Sometimes I am. Greetings, Deb, says, Marjo Palugzi, Baby Bear should have known better. Shout out to Yantra, says, it's Sabby time. Hello, yay, hello. Greetings, Crom, says, Sabby sending good energy to Rome too. That's right. We did hear from him. He seems to be doing pretty well. Like he's in good spirits, which is good. So he should be having another trial soon, from what he said. So thank you so much for that. Thank you. C. Shada says, hey, Sabby. Greetings, Brown Bunny. Seated for Miss Salvati. What's up? I see you got your popcorn too. You're all over there. Shout out to Dwayne, says, doobie do the damn thing. Greetings, Ashura, said, I thought Sabrina would take the whole week off. That's the week of Christmas, next week. Thank you, Bonnie, sending big hugs from Omaha, Nebraska. Well, welcome. Shout out to Myra, says, hi, everyone. Is that a cat with a hat? This is a cat with a winter hat. I've never seen that. Greetings, Jen, says, doobie doo. Shout out to Miss Mississippi, says, great evening, everyone. Greetings, David, says, I can't see what that is, but greetings, David. Shout out to, did I say this? I don't want to make sure oh yeah, I did say Brown Bunny. Sorry, I almost clicked on you again. Shout out to Josie, says, hi fam, good for those Amazon workers in solidarity. That's right. Shout out to Chris C. Hey, Sabby and everyone. Solidarity to Amazon workers and hope it grows. Couldn't ask for a more perfect time for a strike. Happy holidays, y'all. Yeah, make sure you guys answer that poll question. I'm curious to see where you guys stand on that about the Amazon strike. I know some of you may wait till you hear the story. Totally get that as well. Greetings, Christmas Sheep, says, bye, Christmas Sheep. And shout out to Mary Beth, says, hey, Sabby and crew, I love it live. Welcome all, guys. Welcome. And I want to go ahead and answer the super chat from Mark. Thank you, Mark. Newsflash, Mama Bear Mole's own cub. Interesting. And thank you, Yantra, for the super sticker. Thank you guys so much. And we are ready to dive in, folks. Let's go ahead and start out by giving a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really do appreciate you holding down the fort around me. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. Ultimate, there's Sabinators. Don't forget about those Sabbies. They're kind of sassy. And of course, there are Sabsters. I think I skipped over Sabsters. Yeah, Sabsters. And then the sassy Sabbies. Sassy. Sachet. And of course, we also have members. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Thank you guys so much for your support. Appreciate you, fam. Appreciate you. Let's go ahead and close that out here. Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about tonight? The theme is all the king's men. And I think this will make sense when you see the stories that we are going to cover. Let's go ahead and share that beautiful thumbnail, ladies and gentlemen. Let's do the damn thing. Hey. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, what are we discussing? Oh, man. Piers Morgan, Cenk Uygur, and Dave Rubin square off. Yes, I can't believe that Piers Morgan was able to get Cenk Uygur on the same panel with Dave Rubin. My guess is maybe the panelists don't know everyone that's going to be present ahead of time. That is my assumption. But it's amazing. We're going to talk about this. And we're going to talk about a little of the hypocrisy and the partisan politics. We'll get into all that with that particular story. We're also going to discuss, this is interesting news coming out of Canada. And I don't know if any of you have heard about this, but this is a serious situation. It appears that Justin Trudeau is being called to resign. There are a number of members of his own party that have publicly come forward asking him to resign. So this should be very interesting. And I can't wait to get into that story. Justin is not looking like he is having a good week so far. We're also going to discuss Stephen A. Smith sounds off. And that picture is funny. Anna said that was a funny picture. Stephen A. Smith sounds off politically. He is very upset that he is being accused of being a Republican. Well, Stephen, welcome to Political Commentary. I know you do sports commentary, but we'll get into all of that. We're also going to discuss, this is breaking news today. The Teamsters have decided to go on strike against Amazon. How is that going to affect everybody? This is the Amazon Christmas strike. And I stand with the workers. We'll get into that story. And we are also going to discuss Luigi Mangion arrived in New York. We're going to talk about the way that they are trying to, oh my God, the amount of police officers that surrounded Luigi Mangion to take him into the court is absolutely ridiculous. We're going to get into all of that, the double standard tonight when we discuss all the king's men. That's right. That's right. Yeah, Christy said, oh, the perp walk made him look very good there. Exactly. We're going to get into that. I think they did this to intimidate people, but it's actually doing the exact opposite. It's not making people afraid. I've seen a number of people online already calling him a hero. So just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and get started with the first story. Really quick, go ahead and smash that like if you haven't had a chance to do so. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share like a Care Bear. And we are diving into our very first story. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the first story I saw when I woke up this morning, and that was that the Teamsters have decided to go on strike against Amazon. And honestly, I can't blame them. These workers have been complaining for quite some time about the working conditions. It's not the first time that Amazon workers have gone on strike, but this one in particular is happening over the holidays. Now, there is this song from this band called Loverboy. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Loverboy, but they were like big, like in the 80s or something like that. And they had this song called Working for the Weekend. You might know the tune a little bit. It goes, everybody's working for the weekend. That song. Well, everybody might be working for the weekend except for these workers that went on strike at Amazon. Let's go ahead and get into this discussion here. They were talking about this on Fox News, and I think it's pretty interesting who they are looking out for in the midst of all of this and who they should be looking out for. Listen to this.
If you have ordered a man bag, there's a possibility it may be delivered late, because we got a Fox News alert just moments ago. The Teamsters Union has kicked off an historic strike against Amazon. Workers at 7 facilities across 4 states are walking off the job at this hour.
Yep, the rank and file are going to be walking the picket lines at hundreds of Amazon fulfillment centers nationwide. This will allow warehouse workers and drivers without collective bargaining agreements to join in.
I didn't even know they were unionized. So here we go.
So that part right there was interesting to me. That is one of the commentators here on Fox News who said he didn't even know they were unionized. I don't understand how he didn't know that, given the fact that Chris Small's Amazon unionization story was one of the biggest stories in mainstream media last year. I mean, Chris Smalls went on to, I think, almost every corporate news platform possible. He also went on to late night shows as well to discuss this. So how do you not know that? Again, when you look at corporate media, this is what I was telling you guys, like they're not paying attention to the things that they should be paying attention to. So how does he not even know that they're Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Let's get into it.
If you're waiting on gift deliveries that could cause big problems, 6 days until Christmas.
So the Teamsters Union represents around 10,000 workers at 10 Amazon facilities. They say they're fighting for better benefits and safer working conditions at work.
That's right. And those are live pictures right now. They are walking the line. Fox 5 here in New York, taking these images in Mathspeth, New York. Amazon says there will be no impact to your holiday deliveries. But keep in mind, it's at the Amazons in San Francisco, portions of Los Angeles, New York, Atlanta, and Chicago. And the union says if your package is delayed, something you wanted for Christmas, and it doesn't show up, the union says blame Amazon's greed, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a settlement before Christmas.
They want more money.
They want more money. So listen to this. The way that they are framing this is that, oh no, you may not receive your Christmas presents. Not, oh no, these workers are underpaid. Oh no, they're not giving these workers the breaks that they should receive. Oh no, you may not receive your Christmas presents. Listen, people can still go out to the stores to buy Christmas gifts if they want to. Okay, this is not a life or death situation for a consumer. But the concern should be with the workers. It should be with the treatment that they have received, which you're going to hear a little bit about that in just a second. We have heard these stories for years about the way Amazon workers have been treated. And now, some of the Amazon workers have decided to unionize, and that was supposed to make things better. What you're going to find out is that even though there was a lot of praise for the NLRB, you're going to find out that obviously Amazon, a $1 trillion company like Amazon, was able to just brush off the NLRB and not follow the rules of that. And that's why when people were congratulating that, I said, well, these, billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies, they don't really have to follow that if they don't want to. And that's exactly what Amazon has decided to do.
They want to get paid more. Teamsters organization, though, there are only 10,000 people that are affected. And when you compare that to how many people work at Amazon, it's a small portion because 1.5 million people work at Amazon. So hopefully it's not going to affect your packages, but just beware.
So look at this, guys. This is where all the strikes are happening. We have California, we have Georgia, Illinois, and of course, New York. Right. So, but again, notice how they're framing it. Don't worry, you might still get your packages and it's like the concern is in the wrong direction.
If you're shopping, there could be a delay.
Well, they're definitely using this as a negotiation point.
Mm-hmm.
They are fully aware that it's the holiday season and people want their packages, and they're using it to put some pressure on Amazon. I'm not sure it's really going to work, though, considering the amount of people that are protesting.
I just saying, you know how president likes to be hands-on? Jeff Bezos having dinner with him last night, and the Teamsters union president has already been down to Mar-a-Lago.
They have a great relationship.
He did not endorse Trump, but he didn't endorse a Democrat, and they do get along. So I think he could probably do did you still do party lines? Or FaceTime? You could FaceTime with two people, or you could Zoom call. You could. And President Trump could end this.
Well, you know what? I think President Trump needs to work on what we're about to talk about.
Yeah. That's a transition.
I'm Steve Doocy.
Okay, so the Amazon workers are officially on strike. And by the way, they have been trying to negotiate with Amazon for quite some time. They had warned them that if they did not meet these demands, that they would go on strike for the holidays. So it's not like the management and the supervisors at Amazon didn't know. They've known about this for quite some time. So they just decided not to meet their demands. I want to show you some of the conditions that they have had to deal with. This is from More Perfect Union.
We deliver with pain and suffering.
This is my third holiday I'm giving to Amazon. I haven't been around for Thanksgiving or Christmas.
It's constant speed up for the holidays.
It's like twice as dangerous, I would say, because everyone's moving twice as fast and there's twice as much work.
Every horror story you read about Amazon is true, but worse. And that is why I voted yes for the strike.
Workers at the only unionized Amazon warehouse are going on strike during the company's busiest season.
Ultimately, Amazon only speaks one language, and that's money. We're going to hit them where it hurts until they decide it's time to come to the table.
Workers with the ALU plan to strike the JFK 8 facility on Staten Island later in December.
We can't wait anymore.
We're not joking around here. Right now, it is peak season at Amazon. It's Amazon's most profitable time of year.
Well, it's pretty typical of Amazon to call mandatory overtime every holiday season.
They've been asking for us to work 11.5-hour days, 5 days a week.
With the lunch break, it's a 12-hour and 30-minute shift, so you're there majority of the day, majority of the week.
They have no right to demand that of their workers when they could fulfill those same roles with voluntary extra time and surge pay for the workers that want to take it on.
Workers say peak season exacerbates existing safety issues.
It's extremely chaotic, especially at that time. Management is really looking to push numbers. That means cutting a lot of corners, bending the rules, pushing conditions that are unsafe.
Pushing conditions that are unsafe. Where have we heard this before? We heard this from the Boeing whistleblowers. They made the same complaint that during certain times of the year, the peak periods, that the managers were pushing for them to get things done in a shorter amount of time. And so obviously that is going to lead to some safety issues. So it's not, again, not the only company that we've heard this about.
I mean, a lot of times the conveyor belts get backed up, so you're packing boxes, but you can't even put them on the conveyor belt. You're forced to build up stacks of boxes around you. There's no room on the floor to walk. Yeah, just safety hazards everywhere.
Despite employing only 36% of warehouse workers in 2022, Amazon was responsible for 53% of all injuries in the warehouse industry.
Amazon is fine to let people die in the wake of tornadoes and any kind of natural disaster for their profits. And we, as Amazon workers, know what we deserve. And we're not going to take it anymore.
Workers at the JFK 8 Amazon warehouse on Staten Island voted to unionize in 2022, but they still don't have a contract.
See, a lot of people forget about this. Remember when Chris Smalls unionized the very first Amazon warehouse on Staten Island? A lot of people forget that they still don't have the contract. That was 2022. It's now 2024.
Amazon is pretending like it never happened.
Their stance is, we don't exist.
And they ignore everything from the NLRB.
And right now they're in federal court arguing that unions are unconstitutional.
Everybody hearing this? So they're ignoring the NLRB. They're arguing that unions are unconstitutional. When I tell you it is us against them, this is exactly what I'm talking about. They don't even want us to unionize.
Amazon is one of the wealthiest companies in the world. They can keep us in court for the rest of time. The only thing that will get them to negotiate a union contract with us is impacting their bottom line.
We've pledged several hundred workers so far to participate, and we're still working and organizing and building up our structure in JFK so we can hopefully mobilize a lot more and really impact productions this year.
Trying to show Amazon we're fed up, we're done.
A lot of us don't want to go on strike. We want to work, but we want to work for fair wages. We want to work for at least $30 an hour. We want to get adequate breaks so that we're not getting injured all the time. We want to be able to go to the bathroom and drink water without getting written up. And if we have to go on strike to make Amazon come to the table and give us the respect that we deserve, then we're going to do it.
So, they were sounding the alarm about this for quite some time. It's not like they just decided to do this overnight. But what you're going to see here in particular is that the cops who were there at the picket line, this is at one of the locations in New York, you're going to see that they are not there in support of the workers. I want to bring in this clip here from Louise. It says, breaking: after hours of Amazon Teamsters maintaining a strong picket line, cops broke the picket line for Amazon. So you can see it here again. You'll see what side they're on.
Can't be on the sidewalk, can't be in the street. It's alternate. And you need 60 minutes to help. Yeah, look at that. This is illegal. benefits and everything. Yeah, don't worry, bro.
These are what they call scabs. These are the people that came in to break the picket line.
Don't let them fool you guys. All union brothers, man.
So as I told you before, now the police department, they're a part of a union, but look who they choose to protect. They're choosing to protect the elite, the wealthy class. Again, they stand in solidarity with those in position of power and the wealthy. They do not stand in solidarity with the working class. You're going to see this one as well. This is from Midwestern Marks. New York police clear Amazon strikers out of the way so scabs can drive through freely. One scab said, "I'm proud to be a slave." Like, this is ridiculous. Watch this.
You are unlawfully in the roadway.
They've started arresting some of the Teamster leaders. The police from the jump have been trying to arrest the leaders. Here we can appreciate a line. How long is this line? Now they're taking advantage to get all the trucks out now. All the trucks are now coming out because the police are making arrests. If any American worker had any doubt about the true role of the police, who the police are loyal to, it's anybody except you and me. The police are loyal to Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. The police have been acting extremely aggressive. There's a crowd now trying to get this Teamster leader, this Amazon worker out.
So the police were there they did arrest, of course, Amazon union members, and they arrested this guy who was an Amazon driver. This is wild. Breaking: Amazon driver attempted to stop his delivery van in support of ULP strike in New York City in the warehouse entrance. The cops swarmed him and he was arrested. Workers surrounded the van and cops flung them off. So this guy who was driving an Amazon van decided, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to stand in solidarity with everybody else. And he got arrested. They arrested this guy. Isn't this wild? Again, who are they standing with? You can see the video of it here where people are saying, let him go. So you see who they stand with, guys. Look at this. I guess this is supposed to be, is he one of the captains? He has on the hat. Look at this. Look at how he's looking at him. So we have people that are a part of a union, the NYPD, arresting people who are part of another union. This does not make any sense. Again, I told you, in order for us to have solidarity among the workers, we have to fight back against the billionaire class. We have to fight back against the elites. And this is what they want. They want the working class people to fight against each other. They're loving this right now when they see this image. So that's important for people to see. Again, the workers are not the enemy. And luckily enough, it appears they let him go. I love this. I'm glad he was released. But Amazon driver Jurgerson Cardenas has been freed. He gets a class hero welcome on the Teamsters ULP strike. So luckily they let him go, but he never should have been handcuffed in the first place.
Earlier, so he's got a few words. Give it up for him, everybody. Give it up.
Thank you. Yo, we gotta keep it together so we can make this shit happen. That's the only way we're gonna make it happen. If not, whoever don't wanna be here, keep it moving. That's so. We gotta be up.
So I'm glad that he was released, right? So again, standing in solidarity there. Now, I just want to remind everybody that Sean O'Brien, the president of the Teamsters, spoke at the GOP convention. Everybody remember that? And in the end, the Teamsters decided not to endorse the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, but he did speak at the GOP convention. So one would assume that he may have somewhat of a relationship with President Trump, at least to the point where he can get in the room with him. But where was Donald Trump when all of this was happening? I want to show you this. Once again, people look out for their class. Sean O'Brien spoke at the GOP convention. Trump should be with the Amazon workers, not Jeff Bezos. And this is where he was. It says last night, Trump was dining with Jeff Bezos at Mar-a-Lago. So look at this. And this is what I was talking about. That was Jeff Bezos right there. And I want to remind you, Jeff Bezos is actually proud about the fact that he is getting closer and closer to being a trillionaire. Jeff Bezos is getting close to being a trillionaire. Now, we talk about billionaires shouldn't exist. We damn sure should not have trillionaires in this. This is ridiculous. Enormous amounts of wealth, and yet the workers at Amazon are being paid pennies. They're not getting adequate breaks that they should have. So one of the Amazon workers was questioning about this, and they said, how do you feel about Jeff Bezos about to become a trillionaire?
Jeff Bezos bragging that he could be the first trillionaire ever.
That just harps on what I was saying. A trillionaire, one man with $1 trillion. Where's your ethics? Where's your morals? Where are your, my fellow American? I was brought up all my life. My fellow Americans. Share the wealth. How are you about to be a trillionaire? Do you not recognize how you got there? How'd you get there? We're the fuel to that engine. We're the fuel to that profit. We're the fuel. Because we take away this fuel, you got nothing. Recognize us. Respect us enough to say, hey, a livable wage is not $20 an hour. $21 an hour, $22 an hour, $23 an hour. That's not a livable wage in today's economy. $100, does it fill up a bag of groceries? One bag of groceries, $100.
Especially in New York City. I think if you ever lived in New York, you would know that. I would say $20 wasn't enough to live off of in New York 10 years ago, let alone today. But no, it's not enough. And I've shown you this with the cost of living report before, what you should make in each state that you live in order to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. Like and most people are not being paid what they should make. So this $15 minimum wage thing is still not enough for people to be able to make a living in this country. But the fact that Jeff Bezos is getting closer to becoming a trillionaire, he's able to do that again by exploiting the labor, by exploiting the workers. When you exploit the workers, it helps make you richer. And that's how this works. So when I say all the king's men, the reality is we are the 99%. I don't think there's any billionaires watching the show. Okay. So we are the 99%. We are the people that are exploited for the people who are billionaires and this one that's close to becoming a trillionaire. Occupy Wall Street had the right idea with that message that it really comes down to us because there's more of us than there are of them. And as time goes by, you'll continue to see that they just become richer and richer and richer. And that's why I continue to say, regardless of the political party, if we don't find a way to dismantle the elites, to dismantle the billionaire class in this country, there will never be a solid working class agenda that is implemented for the American people, because the billionaires don't just run these businesses, they also run Congress. So keep that in mind. I'll keep my eye on the strike and we'll continue to follow the story. But as it stands right now, these Teamsters are on strike against Amazon, and they're not working for the weekend, at least not this weekend. like the Loverboy song. They're more like the other Loverboy song that I know of, which is the Turn Me Loose song. They're like, why don't you turn me loose? Turn me loose. Turn me loose. That's where they are now. So we'll keep an eye on it, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll let you know what happens going forward. Well. All right, let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Blueser. Evening, Sabby and fam. It's been a while since I've been able to listen live. Glad to be able to listen to the recordings, but let's not use the Browns as an example. Sabs. The Browns? Who's the Browns? Remind me in the chat, but thank you. Bo says, so true, Sabby. There are other options to shop for gifts as well, and that the focus should be on the workers' needs. Yeah, at this point in time, I do try to encourage people, like, we can always do what we used to do, which was going to the store and buying the gift and doing things that way, instead of relying on Amazon. When you think about that Prime subscription, the reason why they're able to get these packages to you within 2 days is because they're exploiting the workers. That's why you're able to do that. So something to keep in mind. Thank you, Hamani. Thanks, Sabby. Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. Hey, I thought Christmas was about goodwill and Jesus according to this country. Damn a present, LOL. This is something too that someone said to me before. They said, why do we get presents on Christmas? And of course, my response was, well, because, according to the Bible, when Jesus was born, the wise men brought 3 gifts. And they told me, right, but we're not Jesus. Makes you wonder. Thank you, Dre Harden. People in a union arresting people in a union for doing what unions do. You called that one perfectly, Sabby. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Hoping Amazon strike trickles into USPS because of the privatization talks. Holidays are perfect timing. Yeah, gifts will be late, but our solidarity runs strong. Taft-Hartley bothers me if used. It's a good point. And thank you for the super sticker, Leah Ford. And thank you, Blueser. Oh, Cleveland Browns. Okay. Thank you for that. The Cleveland Browns. Oh, man, the Browns. One day, you guys. One day, you know what? I really do believe one day that the Cleveland Browns, that they're going to get there. One day. One day. There's some of these teams I worry about, and I'm just kind of like, are they ever going to get there to the Super Bowl? But maybe one day, ladies and gentlemen. All right, guys, go ahead and smash that like button. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to the next story. We're making good time. Something is rotten in Denmark. More so Canada. Something is up in Canada, ladies and gentlemen. It appears that Justin Trudeau is being pushed to resign by his own political party. I kid you not. That could happen sometime soon. They are very serious about this. Now, this is happening at a time where apparently his finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, has decided to resign, and this is causing a huge ruckus in Parliament. We're going to get into this story here. Top Canada minister resigns, threatening Trudeau's hold on power. Oh, Justin Trudeau. This is Chrystia Freeland here. We're going to tell you who she really is as well in a second. Some of you might remember her because I've talked about her before. But this is a doozy. I want to get into this part right about here. Ms. Freeland, who helped steer the Trudeau government through many challenges, had been playing a prominent role in forming Canada's response to the incoming Trump administration, leading a team of government officials preparing for the transition. In her letter of resignation, Ms. Freeland accused Mr. Trudeau, who is deeply unpopular at home, of engaging in costly political gimmicks instead of focusing on countering the grave threat of tariffs. So, yeah, for those who are not aware, he does not have a good approval rating at all. Canadians, she said, know when we are working for them, and they equally know when we are focused on ourselves. She said the breakdown with Mr. Trudeau had come over his push for measures, including a sales tax holiday and sending modest checks to taxpayers that would add to the government's deficit. She said she believed the spending aimed at carrying support. Did they spell carry wrong? They did spell carry wrong. Okay, whatever. Carrying support among voters would undermine Canada's finances and its ability to deal with Mr. Trump's tariff threat. Late Monday, Mr. Trump reacted on social media by deriding Ms. Freeland. The great state of Canada is stunned as the finance minister resigns or was fired. Some are alluding to she was fired from her position by Governor Justin Trudeau. He said Governor Justin Trudeau, repeating an ongoing joke in which he refers to Canada as the 51st state and Mr. Trudeau as its governor. Her behavior was totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada. She will not be missed, he added. The two had clashed during the renegotiation of the North American Trade Agreement in his first term. So, yeah, not looking good so far for Justin Trudeau. But I do want to remind you who Chrystia Freeland is, because some of you may have forgotten. It was actually the Gray Zone who pointed this out. And this was during that time. Remember when Justin Trudeau allowed a former Nazi to come and speak inside the Canadian Parliament? Everybody remember this? Okay. Along with Zelensky. It said Canada's honoring of Nazi vet exposes Ottawa's long-standing Ukraine policy. And then they had to issue this big apology or all this jazz and stuff like that. So Chrystia Freeland, let me highlight this. Canada's second most powerful official, Chrystia Freeland, is the granddaughter of one of Nazi Germany's top Ukrainian propagandists. So that's who she is. I don't know if everybody remembers this, but I just want to remind you who she is, because the media has been talking about her very favorably because they also want Justin Trudeau to resign. But just a little tidbit there, just a little FYI. Now, as I told you, there are a number of party members that have come forward and they are speaking out to the media that they want Trudeau to resign. Let's go ahead and bring that in here. You'll see a number of MPs speaking out against him. Listen to this.
The finance minister is resigning in the middle of an economic crisis, and a fifth of his Liberal caucus has lost confidence in him. Justin Trudeau has lost control, and yet he clings to power. We cannot accept this kind of chaos, division, weakness while we're staring down the barrel of a 25% tariff from our biggest trading partner and closest ally. Now is the time for a carbon tax election to turn the decision away from me or Mr. Trudeau or Mr. Cenk or Mr. Carney and put it in the hands of the people.
Mr. Trudeau's government is over. He must acknowledge that and act accordingly.
Could you guys imagine if Democrat politicians would have said this about Joe Biden? Could you imagine if people like AOC and people like Cori Bush, you could imagine if the squad members would have come forward publicly to the media and said, Joe Biden has to go. Joe Biden's presidency is over. Could you imagine? That never happens here. I feel like it never happens. But in Canada, they seem to be a little bit more brave.
I believe that the departure of is so important ally, Minister of Finances, Vice First Minister, Prime Minister, is the end of this government. And that at the latest in the beginning of 2025, the Prime Minister should go to the General Governor and ask for the dissolution of the Parliament.
Right now, Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. I hear it everywhere I go. People cannot find a home that they can afford. They can't buy their groceries. And on top of that, We have Trump threatening tariffs at 25%, which put hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. And instead of focusing on these issues, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are focused on themselves. They're fighting themselves instead of fighting for Canadians. And for that reason, today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
All right, a pretty collective, unified message from the opposition leaders, certainly, but there are even some Liberal MPs also echoing those calls for Justin Trudeau to resign.
That's right. Those are some of the opposition, but you'll hear some of the Liberals too.
Let's put it this way. Firing a Minister of Finance who has served you extremely well is not what I would call a trustworthy move.
And that's okay.
Can you resign? Yes.
I love the way she said it. Let's put it this way. So polite.
Today was supposed to be a presentation of a plan, and now we're talking about a finance minister who has resigned. I don't see how this helps the prime minister, and I don't see a way out and how this helps us talk about Canadians while we're continuing to talk about what's happening right now.
So he needs to go. Sorry, I'd like to hear you say it.
I think he needs to go, yeah.
Interesting, ladies and gentlemen. So both parties against Justin Trudeau, both parties. So you're going to see what would happen if Justin Trudeau refuses to resign. Now, there are other options that the parliament can take to still get him out of there. And I think you need to hear about that.
Trudeau's known as being a very stubborn man, and as of now, we are not getting any indications at all he's gonna step down.
Like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays.
If he sticks it out, then the way to get rid of him would be a vote of no confidence in the House of Commons, the Parliament. His gamble, I think, is that the one party that's keeping him in power right now, the polls show that they're also going to be stomped in the election. So it might just be that he limps through the next few months because the people keeping him in power don't want to bring him down. In Canada, party leaders are elected by special conventions of party members, and they only take place every few years. And that is the big difference between Canada and Britain and Australia, where we have seen prime ministers literally ditched overnight. Not going to happen here. It's hard to kind of overestimate the shock this caused.
Yesterday was a gong show at the bottom of a dumpster fire, wrapped up in a cluster.
Chrystia Freeland was his closest ally in cabinet. They were joined at the hip for 10 years. When Trudeau had a really tough job he needed to get done, he would give it to Freeland.
We are a country that is good at finding compromises.
So she led the negotiations on the trade negotiations with the first Trump administration.
Is there such a thing as precedented times? And if so, could we please have some of those?
This guy always reminds me of like a soap opera star or something. Like, I think like I look at Justin Trudeau and I feel like he could be an actor. I don't feel like like I don't look at him and I see, oh, he's, going to be a politician or something like that. Like he just comes across to me as someone who apparently appears very charismatic. He got there somehow and probably was used to getting his way. But he doesn't really strike me as a politician when I look at him at first sight or whatever.
With him on his first trip in November 2015 to Manila for a summit, and he was literally mobbed. I mean, previous prime ministers have been stodgy white men, to put it bluntly, and here you had this young guy who was promising sunny ways. It was Trudeau mania. So you have people very unhappy about rising prices, people very unhappy about the sheer cost of housing, and he's been in power 9 years. And regardless of how good you are, after 9 years, people kind of get a bit fed up with you.
So you're interested in what he just said there. That's pretty interesting. Similar problems that we heard here, right? The prices are too high. People are complaining about that. They're complaining about housing costs, right? We're having similar issues here as well. I didn't know about that. Someone put the comment, it said, Sabby, he was a drama teacher before politics. I didn't know, but I can see it's very fitting for him.
The opinion polls have been dreadful for the last 18 months. it's quite clear that if there were an election now, his Liberal Party would be absolutely crushed. Right now, it's just backbench Liberal legislators, and you could argue they're malcontents, they're unhappy, they're not in cabinet, fine. But he has a 38-strong cabinet. If any of those people come out and say, we love you, but it's time to go, then it's hard to see how he could continue.
Tariffs will make our country rich.
Well, the stakes are that Donald Trump comes to power on January 20th, promising to impose 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports, which would be devastating because Canada is very heavily reliant on the states for its economy. The federal government under Trudeau and the premiers of the 10 provinces in Canada were supposed to unite. The provincial premiers have already come out to say, look, and two of them have used the word chaos. If the various elements of Canadian governments are all on different pages, well, it could get very ugly.
A close ally of Justin Trudeau said Tuesday that the Canadian leader is reflecting on complaints about his leadership. Members of his ruling Liberal Party are unhappy after his Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland abruptly stepped down days ago. Her resignation left Trudeau's government adrift less than a month before a new US administration under Donald Trump could impose crippling tariffs on Canadian goods. But his new finance minister, Dominic LeBlanc, told Canada's CBC that Trudeau had held a special meeting with his parliamentary caucus and listened carefully to their concerns, and he would reflect on it. Trudeau gave a light-hearted nod to the turmoil at a Liberal Party event Tuesday night.
It's hard not to feel happy when we're like this, among Liberals, among family, because that's what we really are, a big family. Now, like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays.
Oh, he's good. He's good at this one. He knows how to engage the crowd, knows how to engage the audience. I can see he's been there it's been 10 years, you guys. It's been 10 years. And so here's the thing. You may be wondering, like, if he decides not to resign, what can be done? Well, they could still push him out by having a no confidence vote in Parliament, which may be that's even more embarrassing. At this point, you're better off just resigning, because I think you would have a little bit more pride if you resigned on your own accord than if you waited for Parliament to push you out by no confidence vote. So it almost feels like he's in a similar position as President Macron. That's what it feels like at this point in time.
But of course, like most families, we find our way through it.
Freeland was a key Trudeau ally. She also served as Deputy Prime Minister and had headed a special cabinet committee on Canada-US relations. Her resignation is building up to one of the worst crises Trudeau has faced since taking power in 2015, and comes when he is on track to lose the next election to the Conservatives in late 2025. Pressure is growing on Trudeau to resign. The traditionally pro-Liberal Toronto Star, the largest circulation newspaper in Canada, ran an editorial Tuesday saying it was time for him to leave. Another Liberal parliamentarian said separately that Trudeau was delusional if he thought he could fight the next election.
So we are seeing more similarities between Canada and the US, where it appears that come 2025, Conservatives are on path to win, similar to what just happened here in the US. So is everybody kind of seeing what's happening across the board here? So the people are complaining about the same issues, the housing costs. They're complaining about the grocery store prices. I mean, Canada is our neighbor to the north. It's not like it's all the way across the pond somewhere. So we're seeing some of the same issues come from the people.
To add to the party's woes, the Liberals badly lost a special election in British Columbia recently. If Trudeau does resign, it will set off a Liberal leadership race that Freeland could join. She sent an email to party volunteers on Tuesday saying this will not be the end of the road, but gave no details.
Yeah. Oh, buddy. I don't know. If you're in the chat and you live in Canada, let me know. This is really interesting. I have covered Justin Trudeau a couple of times on this show. I remember I covered him during the trucker protests, which that was also ridiculous. He wanted to freeze people's accounts. for participating in the protest. Again, just insane, absurd. I obviously covered him when he brought the former Nazi to speak in Parliament. Like, he's been all over the place. And I would say, again, he's better off just resigning on his own accord than waiting to be pushed out. But it sounds like Canada is on track to have conservatives take over as well. So we are seeing a trend, folks. All the king's men are ready to come together to push out Justin Trudeau. Let's get those comments on Rockfin, Eric. Thank you. Well. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Looks like Fox News got their own DEI hire that they like to complain so much about sitting there on the couch with them. What is that guy talking about? President Trump will end this. He's not president. We got exactly a month to go before he's president. This is a good point. Thank you for this one as well. New York City Council 2021 limited qualified immunity, but only when your 4th and 8th Amendment rights in regards to unreasonable searches and excessive force, allowing to sue the NYPD and NYC. If they would have went all the way to include all of your rights, then you would see that their First Amendment rights were violated and they can launch class action lawsuit. Jeff is trying to say unions are unconstitutional. Okay, bet. Let's make corporations unconstitutional at most shareholder-owned corporations at least. Started in the States to start breaking them up. Look at this at the end of the day with all the things that corporate has to drag unions opposing them every step of the way. Whether it's union busting, delaying, getting a contract, arguing unions are unconstitutional, the ultimate card that they have as their nuclear option, which is unions cannot stop companies from outsourcing your job out to the community, the state, or the US. The only unions that don't have to worry about that are government unions. The only way that we're going to stop this permanently is if we completely bypass unionization and go straight to worker co-ops, running initiatives to enact legislation and ratifying amendments for laws like right of first offer to transition companies into cooperatives. Commissioning a government agency that will help workers form co-ops from scratch and transition to one, a minimum wage high enough that will allow government to provide subsidies, not just for small and medium-sized businesses, but worker co-op startups to cover 85 to 100% of the labor costs. Ultimately, transition the private sector economy from a corporate business hierarchical model to cooperative collapse-based model at 75% minimum, with 75% of that 75% being worker owned. Yeah, this is also one of the reasons why I say unions should be a starting point, but the end game should be worker co-ops, because Roger is correct. Like, the union can't stop those companies from outsourcing those jobs. The unions can't stop those companies from allowing people to cross the picket line and get the work done anyway. So this is important. Thank you so much for that, Roger. Let's get to some of the comments over here as well. Thank you for the super chat, Pine Martin. Jeff Bezos equals Bowser. We had Luigi. Where is our Mario? Interesting. Ashura says Freeland is a Nazi liberal whose racist anti-Semite grandfather is Ukrainian. That's right. A's to me says Quebec is like Canada's constant troll. Lee says, is he going to pull a Macron? We'll have to wait and see. Again, I think he's best just resigning on his own. Just step down. Just go ahead and step down. Thomas says, why does some of the Canadian politicians have a UK royalty accent? That's a good question. I don't know. It could be because when like the British like colonized there, I mean, I haven't been to that part of Canada. I've only been to the French part. So I've been to Montreal. I've been to Quebec City. I know I've been to Toronto. I went to Toronto too, but Toronto's kind of like its own thing. Like it's very different. It's like Canada's New York City. But I would think probably because of the colonization. Kip says he got there off his daddy's name. Daniel says even Nixon resigned. Yeah, even Nixon said, I'm just going to go ahead and step down. And thank you, Aaron. You are my favorite journalist, Sabby, smart, insightful, funny, and kind. Thank you so much. That's very sweet. Hey. Okay, Eric, we can go to part 2. Thank you. And while we're waiting for that, go ahead and smash the like button. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, folks. And we are doing the damn thing. It is time for a little bit of comedy. It is time for us to laugh a little bit. Can we laugh a little bit? Can we do that? Okay. So Stephen A. Smith, I've known about him for years as a sports commentator. I watched him on ESPN. I watched him on a show called First Take. And he's always had a lot to say. He's always been kind of loud and had a lot to say. Over the past 2 years, he started to get involved into political commentary a little bit on his own podcast. And also he's been featured on corporate media shows like Fox News. You've seen him on The View. We've talked about him on here before. He's been on Bill Maher's podcast talking about what the Democratic Party needs to do to make things right. Now, Stephen A. Smith is a registered independent. And for whatever reason, sometimes when you say that to people, they assume that you're a Republican, which I don't know why. But he's been very critical about the Democratic Party this election, and he was trying to sound the alarm over the past year about they need to do something. They have no one on the bench. If they don't fix this, they're going to lose, right? And they did ultimately lose. Well, now Stephen A. Smith is very angry, not necessarily because the Democrats lost, but because he is now being labeled as a Republican. As a Republican. Let's go ahead and bring this in, folks. I got some things to say. I'm going to talk about this game that Stephen A. Smith is playing, and also what happens when you decide to come into political commentary. Let's get into it.
Now let's move on to some politics and social media, where some of you, no surprises, you're just continuing to piss me off. Why? Because every time I make a comment that's critical of the Democratic Party or the left, I get accused of being a pundit for the right. Prior to the election cycle, I voiced my concerns about Joe Biden and his ability to serve as second term as president. Then Biden stepped on the debate stage in late June and revealed what many suspected. He embarrassed himself. The White House and the Democrats eventually switched to Vice President Kamala Harris when he stepped away, who ultimately ran what some would say a valiant presidential campaign, at least in the eyes of some, that ultimately fell short with voters across the country. I pointed out my concerns with the campaign and the Democratic Party along the way, and many of you wanted to accuse me of being a voice for the right. So you know what? I feel like it's time to set the record straight, because ain't nobody hiding, ain't nobody running. Okay? Let me be very, very clear. I'm a registered independent because I don't trust either side. I think both sides are full of it on so many levels and so many circumstances, it's nauseating. But I also want to take a moment, because a lot of people out there on social media have been saying to me, here, Stephen A., you take these positions, you're frustrated with the Democratic Party, but then you voted for Kamala Harris against Trump. Why? It's very, very simple. I believe that Donald Trump has been a divisive figure. And I was thinking coming into this election that the last thing we needed was 4 more years of what we saw the last time, where there was so much strife and so much division that even though the economy clearly was doing well under his watch before COVID struck, it was just too much for the country to take.
Pause here for a second. We had division under Biden's presidency too. There was division among Democrats. There was a division among Democrats and Republicans. I mean, there's been division. I have seen this clear divide since Barack Obama's presidency. Clear divide since Barack Obama. And prior to social media, there was some division under George W. Bush, but, Obama's a part of that social media generation. And that's where you got to see it, not just in person, but also online. I mean, the reality is there's been a big divide. You can tell that by the results of the 2024 presidential election. I mean, it's very clear when Donald Trump won the popular vote and he won the Electoral College, and people were saying, how was it even this close with the popular vote between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump? because that shows you the divide. It also shows you just how closely aligned these political parties have become over time. Democratic Party used to be the party of the working class, and that went out the door as soon as they allowed Wall Street and the military industrial complex, Goldman Sachs, Peoples to come in. All of that changed. Super PACs, all of that changed. So I think the thing with Stephen A. Smith is that sports commentary is different from political commentary. In sports, there's a lot more that you can get away with. Again, it's like you may criticize the way an athlete played a game, but then, you know, these games have seasons. So football has a season, baseball has a season, basketball has a season. But at the end of the day, it's not as divisive as it is when you come into political commentary. When you get into political commentary, the wolves will come for you. I'm speaking for experience. So people are going to attack you more when it comes to political commentary than when it comes to sports commentary. I think that Stephen A. has found this out. And when it comes to politics, if you say that you are independent, for whatever reason, a lot of Democrats, and they're not left, Stephen, you keep calling them left, they're not left. A lot of Democrats will call you a Republican. They'll assume you're a Republican because how could you not support the Democratic Party? Anything other than that means you're a Republican. They said the same thing about those of us that voted third party. They said anything outside of the Democratic Party means that you're actually for the Republican Party. It's a cult. I keep telling you guys this. It's a cult. So I think that you do see a difference there. So he's starting to see just how, I guess, hostile politics can be when you decide to do political commentary.
We're full of civil war in this country. It wasn't so much that he was supportive of white supremacists and he was this racist and all of this stuff like people were saying. I didn't engage in that incendiary rhetoric because I've always believed that Donald Trump was just somebody who did things that were politically expedient. If supporting one side was going to generate votes for him, he would flow with it. And if it was not going to support his cause, he wasn't. It's just simple. It's just that simple. Why did I say that? And why did I refrain from that incendiary rhetoric that was thrown in his direction? It was because I knew Donald Trump before he ran for president.
Here it comes.
And black, whites, male, females, and everybody in between got along with him great. So for all of a sudden, everybody to stand up and act like he was this pariah.
So isn't it interesting, guys? All the people that knew Donald Trump before he was president, that tells you what club they're in. That tells you what club Stephen A. Smith was in if he knew Donald Trump that way, right? And he's right about this point right here that a lot of the rappers that loved Donald Trump before he was president, like I remember seeing Donald Trump in rap videos. I remember seeing him in Bobby Brown's music video On Our Own. Like he was on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I remember this too. Like people loved Donald Trump before he became president. So he's right about that part. But it tells you what club Stephen A. Smith is in.
Was BS. But I was also acknowledging he didn't help his own cause. From the moment in 2015 when he strolled down those escalators with Melania, the man offended 50% of the population back then in 2015. Came across as xenophobic in the eyes of many. And it just seemed to go downhill from there. So after he served his 4 years in the White House, I didn't want to repeat all of that. But I didn't call him a racist. I didn't compare him to Nazis. I didn't sit up there and accuse him of befriending white supremacists and all of that stuff because I knew no matter what people believed, they were trying to politicize it. So when I thought about him against Kamala Harris, I said, excuse me, let me make sure Republicans are in the House and the Senate. You have somebody that's going to work with both sides in the White House and we'll have peace domestically. That's what I was thinking. But under no circumstances was I this raving supporter of Kamala Harris. I saw her during the primaries in 2020. I saw that she couldn't get to Iowa. I saw her comments about transgenders, particularly those in prison that wanted sex changes. I saw how incoherent she appeared in communicating what her objective would be when it came to the economy. I know for a fact that she was supposed to oversee the issues involving the border. Yes, like Roland Martin said, she wasn't the quote-unquote border czar, but she was perceived as such.
But you did vote for her. Not only did you vote for her, Stephen A., but you voted for her. You came after people that were criticizing her record as a prosecutor. You came after people that were saying, well, no, she's not a Black American. We ain't going to start that whole conversation again tonight. But you guys know where I'm coming from. Like, you came after those people too. Like, it was like nobody could criticize Kamala Harris. So you did defend her and you did support her. And then it was after she lost, then you had a lot to say. Granted, like, you were very vocal against Joe Biden when he was still in the race, but you were, backing Kamala to the end until she lost. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, I'm so mad at the Democratic Party and da-da-da-da. And I know you were criticizing them prior, but when the roles switched and Biden stepped aside and Kamala came in, you were backing and supporting Kamala Harris.
Also saw her go on The View and categorically deny that there was any need to change anything that Biden had done, even though over 12 million people crossed the border illegally, and you were acting like there was no border crisis. I saw the duplicitous sentences. I saw the inconsistencies. I also saw the hypocrisy. And as the election came about and ultimately unfolded, and I saw Donald Trump win convincingly. No, he did not get 50% of the popular vote, as the Democrats are so quick to point out. My attitude to them is shut the hell up. Nobody wants to hear that now. Who cares whether he got 50% of the vote or not? He beat you in the popular vote and the Electoral College vote. He swept the swing states. He improved his numbers in every demographic imaginable. Blacks, Hispanics, women. He beat you. And the American people spoke, and they spoke flagrantly. And from that moment forward, I'm like, damn all of that. We're going to support the fact that he won the presidency.
So, and this is my question, and I agree with Nikki A. said, why did he vote for her if he knew all this? Exactly. And that's my point. If you knew all that about her, if you knew she was a weak candidate and all this stuff, why did you support her? And that doesn't mean you should have supported Trump. You didn't have to support anybody. You could have been quiet about this whole thing. But if Stephen A. would have listened to some of the other people in independent media, he would have known that Donald Trump was going to win. He would have known this. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, you guys watch these dating shows, right? Like, you guys watch Love is Blind. People watch Married at First Sight or whatever. That's different because you're kind of being set up with someone that you don't know. But let's say you know the person. Let's say you know that this guy that you're talking to or woman that you're talking to, let's say you know that they got kids and they're not taking care of them. Let's say you know that they don't have a job, and these are all things that you know. And they tell you that their last girlfriend was taking care of them. You know all these things. And you still decide to date them anyway. And then you're surprised when they do it to you. You knew Kamala wasn't a strong candidate. You defended her anyway. Why? If you're a registered independent, why did you feel the need to defend her? You didn't have to defend anybody. That's what kills me. You could have supported third-party candidates who registered independents. You just said you think both of these parties are trash. So why did you vote for Kamala? This is a game that people are playing, you guys.
And I'm going to tell you where I'm at with it. And that doesn't mean I'm going to become some registered Republican, because I still find them a bit shaky. But when I see Attorney Bragg in New York trying to convince the judge and the courts to treat Donald Trump as if he's deceased, as if he has died, just to make sure that your convictions on those 34 felony accounts remains a part of the record, it just shows another level of patheticness, if that is such a word, that creeps in. Once again, you can't let it go. He is the president-elect of the United States of America. In January 20th, he is going to be the president of the United States. And you want to sit up here and waste taxpayer dollars and literally go before the courts to do everything you can to make his conviction a matter of record, knowing he ain't going to get any jail time. You're not going to be able to incarcerate him. You're not going to be able to fine him. Sir, it's over. It's over. Democrats, it's over.
It was over before it started. It was over before Kamala even jumped into the race. The Democratic Party knew they couldn't win. Butch Ware told you guys on my show that they already knew they had no chance of winning since January. And all this hype that was around Kamala, I told you it was manufactured. It didn't make any sense. You mean to tell me the same corporate media that was telling you nobody knows her and they're trying to get to know her, but at the same time, all this hype is surrounded by her, but nobody knows who she is? It can't be both. But it was over before then. And that's what, I don't know if Stephen A. Smith knew this and just didn't want to admit it, but that's what some of us were saying far, far back. It was done before it even started. Yeah, Kamala jumped into the race and she started to get, according to their polls, a boost at that time because it wasn't Joe Biden. But the fact that Stephen A., who's been around all these, I haven't been on The View. I haven't been on Fox News. I haven't been on MSNBC. I haven't been on CNN. Stephen A. has been on all these platforms in political spaces. The fact that you have been in those political spaces and you have been with those people, you really mean to tell me that you thought that she was really going to win? Because I told you guys, the only way that she would be able to win is if a massive support of women came out to support her in a response to the overturn of Roe v. Wade. I told you that was the only way. Because where I come from, not that many people was caping for Kamala like that. Not that many. I didn't really see any Kamala signs or bumper stickers or anything like that. And I'm in Massachusetts. We're blue. So just think about that. So Stephen A. Smith is mad because people are now saying he's a Republican. Oh boy.
It's over. I'm going to say this before and I'll say it again. You know what I would do if I were Joe Biden, President Joe Biden? Especially since I basically gave the Democratic Party the finger because you kept saying, we follow the rule of law, we follow the rule of law, we follow the rule of law. And then you went and you circumvented all of that to get to pardon your son Hunter. Since you were willing to do that, if I was President Joe Biden, I would pardon Donald Trump. I'm going to say it again. I would pardon Donald Trump for one reason and one reason only. To move the hell on. Enough's enough. Enough's enough. You tried to get him if you Nancy Pelosi. You tried to get him if you Chuck Schumer. You tried to get him if you were the Dems in the Senate and the House. You tried to get him if you were the FBI. You tried to get him if you were the Department of Justice. You tried to get him. I mean, damn. Russian collusion. What happened?
That was one of the problems, too, that I actually think helped Donald Trump instead of hurting him was, let's see how we can go after him legally, all these different ways, different lawsuits that we can throw at him. I think that actually, I told you back then, I think they're helping him. That's not going to hurt Donald Trump. That's just going to make people say, wow, you know, like they're really trying to take this guy down. And that made some people who didn't care one way, either, you know, one way or the other, that made some people more sympathetic for him, because they saw what the Democratic Party was trying to do. And he won in the end anyway. So that's interesting. Stephen A. Smith said that Joe Biden should pardon Donald Trump and move on. Now, here's the thing. Now that he said that, people are really going to come after him and call him a Republican. Watch.
Happen. See, we keep talking and talking and talking. And all we see at the end of the day is that you inconvenience Donald Trump and you cause them headaches. Probably forced him to take a few doses of Motrin or Tylenol. That's all you did. You ain't doing anything else to him. He is back in the White House next month. All that shit y'all did, all the stuff you pulled, you had your surrogates out there, your pundits out there, you engaged in lawfare, you did everything. And you convinced the American people, yo, his ass belongs in jail. And where you going instead? Back to the White House. So, of course, when you see that preponderance of evidence that ultimately hits us, with the reality is that no matter how hard you try, whatever mechanisms you put in place, whatever, tactics you utilize, it all amounted to nothing. Joe Biden, they caught him sleeping at an African conference in Angola. Donald Trump wide awake, going back to the White House. Peggy Noonan, an outstanding columnist for the Wall Street Journal, wrote about the unprecedents that exist with a president-elect who's usually chilling. They're normally only making news when there are headlines announcing their cabinet members. Yet, Donald Trump is walking around like he's president now. In France recently, for the reopening, the Notre Dame Cathedral, talking to Zelensky for Ukraine, no doubt Putin for Russia, talking to Benjamin Netanyahu with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
He was talking to Netanyahu before he won. So, just FYI.
Look at what is happening. Every time there is substantive stuff to talk about in the world of politics, Donald Trump's name is the headline instead of President Joe Biden. Y'all lost. The Democrats, you lost. You got your ass kicked in every way imaginable. And why am I saying it like that? It's not because of the election. It's because of what's still happening. Every single other day, this man is making headlines about political issues that are supposed to be dominated by President Biden and the White House. It's not happening. It's him.
Well, that's because they were trying to hide Joe Biden for quite some time because they knew that Joe Biden was experiencing cognitive decline. We've all known this for past 4 years. We've known that. That's why you don't really see him that much. But I think what you need to realize what is happening here is that similar to when we get to the TYT story, you're going to see some people are starting to make a shift. And yeah, Stephen A is independent, who was still advocating for Kamala Harris and supported Kamala Harris. But what you're starting to see is that Stephen A. Smith knows what's about to happen. Like Donald Trump is going to be in the White House again. And so now it seems like he's trying to, I guess, kind of pivot over to that direction for his show. Now, he really doesn't need for that to happen because he does sports commentary. That podcast is not just politics. He also talks about sports, but he is now known in the political commentary space. So it seems like what he's going to do is similar to what Mika and Joe have decided to do on Morning Joe, similar to what TYT is deciding to do is they are deciding to welcome MAGA and go from there. And it's not because Donald Trump won the swing states. It's not because he won the Electoral College. It's because he also won the popular vote. And that hasn't happened since George W. Bush. And that does send a strong sign to people. But that's what this really is about, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you might watch other people do this too. Don't be surprised if some of the other networks that were very critical against Donald Trump also make this pivot like Mika and Joe Scarborough at Morning Joe, because to help them with ratings. That's what they're looking for. Because like I said, the ratings are down. We all know it's all over the place. So don't be surprised if they do this as well.
If that ain't definitive evidence that you have lost, and it is time to lick your wounds, look in the mirror, and revisit all of those tactics you tried to exercise, clearly in an effort to keep him out of the White House, it's now. Maybe you shouldn't have adopted woke culture, embraced woke culture and woke ideology the way that you should. To the LGBTQ community, anybody with decency should support you and your right to live your life. But I didn't hear the right talking about the LGBT community in general and painting everybody with a broad brush. I heard them addressing transgender issues in terms of somebody electing to change their gender, participating, men transitioning into women, but competing with women. Now, we can get into the nuances and the particulars about it, and the Democrats can sit up there and say that the Republicans are misrepresenting their positions and vice versa, what have you. Here's the bottom line. They were successful in disseminating whatever they wanted their message to be to the masses better than you were. You lost.
One thing I will say is I am getting pretty tired of people posting these images on social media saying, see, it wasn't a mandate. It wasn't a popular vote mandate. Who cares? I'm like, who cares? You still lost the popular vote. And why are people still counting in it? What day is it? It's mid-December. Why are they still counting? Like that's kind of weird. But anyway, I get what he's saying. I get where he's coming from. But like I said, some of the things that he's saying in this video, he did not say prior to Kamala Harris losing. Because he was still trying to be on that. Because the thing is, I think if he would have said some of those things that he's saying in this video, do you think they would have had him on The View to talk about politically? No, probably not. Even when he went on to The View after she lost, he didn't say all this. I mean, it's comical at this point, but I think we know what he's trying to do and what direction that he's trying to move in. And some of this has to deal with access. Why do you guys think Mika and Joe Scarborough are moving in a different direction? Because MSNBC's ratings have tanked, and so has their show ratings since Kamala lost. And then they're like, well, we got to get these ratings up somehow. So you guys got to try to find a way to make nice with Donald Trump so that we can have a wider audience and so that the ratings will go back up. That's really what this is about. Because they can get rid of them too. Stephen A. Smith, you have stepped into political commentary. I remember the first year I started this show. It is a beast. It's a beast. It's vicious. People can be very ruthless. And I think you're seeing that now. A little bit different from sports.
And you're still walking around here, evidenced by the latest from Attorney Bragg in New York State, evidenced by him trying to keep the conviction alive. What is that going to resolve? Donald Trump, felony convictions. It's a matter of record. Wow. I mean, you're really accomplishing great things there, huh? He ain't going to prison. He's not even forced to keep on an ankle bracelet and be confined to his home, which is a resort, by the way, Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Oh no, he's going back to the White House. And he travels back to Mar-a-Lago at his discretion, whenever he damn well pleases. You lost. Let it go. When we want to talk about whether or not I want to be a Republican or whatever, listen, there are conservative issues that I adamantly support. I support lower taxes. I support free market capitalism. I support controlling our borders. Absolutely. And I'm a big dude on national security. I ain't apologizing for that to anybody. On those issues, I'm conservative.
Of course, I know you support free market capitalism, Steve. I know you support that one.
What am I liberal on? Live and let live. Social issues. Heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, gay, lesbian, whatever. It's your life. And I'm certainly down for looking out for the desolate and disenfranchised. You're a minority community in this country, you need help, I'm down for it.
But see, here's the thing. Free market capitalism doesn't look out for the disenfranchised. Free market capitalism looks out for the billionaire class, the CEOs, the people at the top. The workers who work for those CEOs and those billionaires are exploited. That's what free market capitalism does. There's no capitalism without exploitation. So, but see, you can't. If I ever had the opportunity to talk to Stephen A, I would tell him that. I'm like, that capitalism, part of that is exploitation of the workers, right? But he ain't gonna talk to me.
You're poor and impoverished. We're only as strong as our weakest link. The elderly, we should always revere and honor and look out for them because they contributed to our society long before we got older, and it was our turn to do so. On that note, it is what it is. That's why I'm an independent. I flow with either side.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that because my whole thing is I think that more independents should vote outside of the two-party system, away from both of those parties. And I know that most of them tend to go one way or the other, depending on the candidate, depending on the issues. But I think that considering the fact that more than 50% of Americans say that they want a third party in this country, I really do think that number of people need to start voting outside of the duopoly. And that's how you'll effectively break the duopoly. Realistically, that's how you'll effectively break it. Irony, we'll talk about this tomorrow with the panel. On Friday, tomorrow, I am having a panel where Black male voters are going to sound off about the Democratic Party's loss. And the guys that are coming on, they have some things to say. And I don't think they're too happy about the way that the media portrayed them because they didn't want to support Kamala Harris. They have some things to say. They will be on here. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. We'll also have news as well. But one of the things that I'm going to talk about with them as well, there is a video by Irony. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with him. He's also known as the Funky Academic. And someone shared this on Twitter where the Funky Academic is saying that, look, he said, we need a new third party and they need to prioritize healthcare. And he believes that's how you will effectively break the duopoly. A new third party that prioritizes healthcare, especially in this moment. So I'm going to be curious to hear what the guys have to say about that tomorrow night. But Stephen A., we know what you're doing, boo. We know what you're doing, okay? We know what direction you're trying to go in. And I think we're seeing it with others. TYT, you see it. You're going to see it happen. It's just, it pisses me off because let me tell you why. When we were having the anti-war marches, these same people said, don't march with people who are not a part of the same political ideology with you. When we were having the marches for Medicare for All, which I also participated in, and I was the MC for, they said, don't march with those people because some of the people in the marches are conservative. One of the people in the marches was a conservative doctor who agreed with Medicare for All and backed it up with scientific data. And they were against him. Now, all of a sudden, because Donald Trump has won the popular vote and he's going back in the White House, now all of a sudden they're saying, well, let's just try to work with these people. After they yelled at all of us that are activists for marching with people for healthcare. So let that sink in, people. That'll let you know where people really stand. Oh my God. I tell you guys, and I told you before, like particularly within this media space on YouTube, I wouldn't even necessarily say independent media space, but within the media space on YouTube, this is a hostile environment behind the scenes. And I know some of you may feel it's hostile in front of the camera, but it's also hostile behind the camera. And when I used to watch independent media, I used to seriously think that all these people were cool with each other. I was wrong. I used to think all of these people wanted to collaborate and work together. I was wrong. I realized that a lot of them want their own and want to hold their own and protect what they have. And they don't really want to extend to anyone else or give attention to anyone else. And that's when I saw things for what they really were. So there's that. Let's get that comment on Rumble. Eric, thank you. Thank you, RB Ham, for the Rumble rant. Fun fact, Chrystia Freeland's grandfather was a Ukrainian propagandist who collaborated with the Nazis during World War II. Google it. Yeah, we showed that. I think your rant might have came in after we showed that. Thank you so much. And are we going to Rockfin as well? Thank you so much for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. One more thing I forgot to say, let's stop using 20th century weapons against 21st century villains. Unions worked so well 100 years ago because we were the only country standing after World War II, so there was no company to outsource to. So all they did was bounce from state to state, but they were still in the country. We're living in the 21st century now, and these companies can go anywhere. Thank you for this one. Get rid of political parties, number 23. Political news coverage, my bad. Political public relations campaigns for their party coverage would be completely transformed and made null and void, thus allowing it to cover politics in a more honest way. No more giving cover to your side while demonizing voters and supporters of the opposite side. No more bending to the will of the GOP tactics instituted by Lee Atwater of working the reference. MSNBC showed the most vile racist parts of the Tea Party, yet did not show the Tea Partiers that were simply against the bank bailouts. MSNBC shows footage of a peaceful protester doing nothing but randomly getting beat up by the police, while Fox shows looters, yet dishonestly ties looters and protesters together. Both can be true, guys, but you got to be honest. Okay. You got to be honest by showing both and trust your viewers to make up their own decisions as they see both sides. That's a good point. Thank you so much for that. We'll go to the comments here on YouTube. Thank you. Shout out to Jasmine Harrell for the super sticker. Thank you. Dwayne says, I'm a registered independent because I'm way to the left of the Democrats. Saul says, it's funny to watch all these people shift to normalizing Trump. He was Hitler 9 years ago. Didn't they say that? Right. They said he was Hitler for 9 years. Thank you, Courtney. Peace, she couldn't even keep peace within her staff that worked for her. The fuck is he talking about? The World is on Fire says, I saw Cammy signs while driving in Connecticut in the richer areas. Yeah, I can bet. I bet you did. Thank you, Jay. The media personnel know they need to change sides quickly to make that money. Philip says Obama won the popular vote too. Yes. And what I should have said, or what I meant to say, is that Trump was the first Republican to win the popular vote since George W. Bush. Itole says Hochul says it's time to end the Electoral College because it hurts New York. Now they want to end the Electoral College. Interesting. Pine says pivot is underway. One thing I can say is so far Candace Owens isn't pivoting on Gaza. I hope she stays consistent if and when Trump starts letting Zio piglets run wild. He says Zio piglets. Oh, I love that name. I hope so too. I mean, you're right. Like, she hasn't pivoted on that, and I hope that she holds Trump account to that as well. You know, thank you for that. And shout out to Ashura, who just became a member for 1 month, or has been a member for 1 month. What's up? All right, guys, we're getting into the Gotham-like story of today. When I say all the king's men, you can kind of figure it out just by looking at this picture. This happened today. This is Luigi Mangion. He arrived in New York City today, being escorted by a slew of police officers. And there's Eric Adams right there, mayor of New York, also escorting him, which is pretty interesting considering the fact that Mayor Adams is also indicted. So you have Mayor Adams, who's been indicted, who is escorting Luigi. Mangione, like I don't know what's happening here. But this to me just reminded me of something that I have seen before. We're going to get into all of that and why this is ridiculous. United Healthcare CEO killing latest Luigi Mangion faces federal charges, including stalking and murder. So they have added another charge on top of terrorism, which is stalking. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Who's watching? Luigi traveled from Georgia to allegedly stalk and kill United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. And they said that he targeted the healthcare industry because it checked every box. One of a number of entries in a notebook in which the suspect discussed the plot in weeks before the brazen crime, according to a federal criminal complaint. So now they found this notebook. Mangione was hit with 4 federal charges Thursday, including stalking, firearms offense involving a silencer, and murder through use of a firearm, and a charge that makes him eligible for the death penalty. Everybody, you see what they're doing. They are really trying to make an example out of Luigi Mangione. They're now saying that he is eligible for the death penalty. Now you tell me, because I have seen people that have been mass shooters. We have seen people that have killed way more people, allegedly, and they weren't eligible for the death penalty. So they're trying to make an example out of Luigi. You got to understand that. This picture that you see here, you know why they have all these people around him? Intimidation. They're trying to intimidate the American people because they want you to be afraid. They are sending a wink and a nod to the elite class. You have to understand, all of these cops surrounding Luigi Mangione is not because they believe he is incredibly dangerous. It is because they are sending a message to the elite class. It is a wink and a nod from the police to the elites to let them know we got your back. Because poor people get killed over and over again. And I don't see this many officers surround these people. Dylan Roof walked into a church and killed 9 people. He didn't have this many officers surround him. And you guys have seen it as well. So this is what they're doing, folks. They're sending a message to the elites to let them know we got your back. Don't worry, CEOs, we got your back. And the people aren't buying it. The public is not buying it. It says the federal complaint contains previously unreleased excerpts from the notebook that police said they seized from Mangione. Authorities said the writings express hostility towards the health insurance industry and wealthy executives in particular. You see what I'm saying? They are sending a message, folks. It goes on to say here, according to the complaint, an entry that was marked on August 15th said the details are finally coming together, and I'm glad in a way that I've procrastinated because it allowed me to learn more about, and it says acronym for a company. In an entry marked on October 22nd, 2024, the writing said, 1.5 months, this investor conference is a true windfall. And most importantly, the message becomes self-evident. Later on in the entry, the pages described an intent to whack the CEO of one of the insurance companies at its investor conference, the complaint said. So they have found this notebook, and now they're saying that they have basically everything that they need to put him away. Like I said, they're even saying that he is eligible for the death penalty. And I want to show you what this looked like earlier today. Tired Peasant said, where's the police force when someone shoots up a school? So you see how now all of a sudden, watch this. This is when he entered New York City. All of a sudden, all these cops are available. Dramatic, right? Like you would have thought that they were escorting a serial killer. I mean, you would have thought that they were escorting Charles Manson, right? No, this is to send a message. You'll see another one here where he arrived as well. Look at all these people
here over the rotors of the helicopter. Talk to us about what you're seeing now and just the scale of the law enforcement presence there.
Yeah, like I said, I've never seen anything like this, Boris, to be quite honest with you. There are just law enforcement from so many levels here, and it's very clear, as you just saw, that walk from the helicopter all the way down that pier to that Sprinter van, which he just got into, while he's shackled. They clearly want the photo opportunity to show what they believe they got their guy. I mean, that's what it really feels like, because that was like a long perp walk, as we would call it in the news industry. And now we're told in that Sprinter van he will travel to a federal building where he will be federally processed. I also
here.
So that's another one of the videos I wanted to show you. And I want you to see also how people are discussing this on social media, because I think what they tried to do again is to intimidate the public with the pictures that they showed. But these images didn't intimidate people. People on social media calling Luigi a straight up G. Like people, and I'll show you here. Let's go ahead and add these in here. Power to the people. And you can see this, the scene of this.
His newly retained attorney, account of federal murder through use of a firearm, a firearms offense as well for using a silencer and muffler in the alleged murder, as well as 2 stalking charges as well. His newly retained attorney, Karen Agnifilo, suggested that federal charges in this case would be overkill. I just want to note, you see New York City Mayor Eric Adams not far behind Mangione there. Again, a very large law enforcement presence. This was an incident that sparked worldwide attention as Mangione was able to get away soon after the murder, clearly in what was a calculated move, as well as investigators finding key details in the search for him. That book bag in Central Park full of Monopoly money, one interesting detail. I believe Bridget.
Like people are on, and the media, corporate media does not understand like how wrong they are getting this. There are people protesting outside saying free Luigi. Like the images that they're showing you is actually helping Luigi. Someone has a sign here that says free Luigi.
Good luck. Absolutely, yeah. Do you mind?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, and you'll see more images like this. She said privatized healthcare is not a crime. Even this picture here, power to the people, that one big performance by the NYPD, and it backfired spectacularly. Their goal was to make Luigi Mangione look like a Batman villain. Instead, it made him look like a folk hero who fought back against the system that puts profit over our own lives. Like literally, like they just don't, they are, look at this picture, look at this image and tell me that this doesn't strike a chord. Because seeing that image doesn't make a lot of people feel, worried. It doesn't make them feel fearful. It makes them feel empathy for Luigi. And I saw this picture and I had to say to myself, is this Batman? Is New York City supposed to be Gotham? Like, what is this? It kind of reminds you of the scene in Superman when all the cops surrounded Superman and they arrested him. That's what this reminds you of. What the hell is this supposed to be? So this is not something that makes people fearful. It makes people look at this and say, that's the guy who tried to help all of us in the healthcare system. And they don't seem to understand that the expression that they tried to portray with this image is not what happened at all. Not what happened at all. This was over dramatic. I didn't see them take anybody else in like this. People who have killed hundreds, thousands, people who have killed multiple people You didn't see them take them in like this. There were people online saying that this could be an album cover. Like, I'm not kidding. It's working in the opposite direction because people are seeing this and they said that could be an album cover. People are online and they're saying they took Superman. Like, the public is not turning in your favor because the public has suffered under the healthcare system that Luigi was talking about. And this is not to advocate for violence on the show. We do not advocate for violence on the show. But every step that corporate media is trying to take and law enforcement and the criminal justice system is trying to take in this particular case, it is not winning over the public in their favor. Why do you think some of them said stop showing his face? People aren't looking at this and they're saying, oh my God, I'm so glad you caught the guy. No, they're not. People are saying the exact opposite. That's what they don't understand. So this is not a win. This is not a win. And for Eric Adams to be there, talk about the pot calling the kettle black. So they are not getting the perception that they think they would get. And even in this clip here, here's another one, which I also thought, like they said, making him meet Eric Adams is cruel and unusual punishment. And as you'll see it there again, it reminds you of the scene from Superman. That's what it reminds me of. So get out of here with this, man. We have watched people that were serial killers. They didn't treat Charles Manson this way. They didn't treat Dylan Roof this way. This is a sign from the police, from law enforcement, to the establishment, to the elite, to let them know if somebody comes after you, we got your back. Because once again, law enforcement protects capital. They protect wealth. All these poor people and working class people that have been killed, when their killer is caught, you don't see this happen because they don't give a damn about you. You aren't worth as much. It's a class issue, and we cannot listen. I don't care which way you are on this particular subject, but the one thing I want to drive home, it is a class issue, what they are doing. Now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to sit back and believe that the police are doing their job, that they're heroes. Oh, look at them saving the day. How many people have watched? How many people watching the show have had loved ones, have had people that they've known that have been killed, that have been murdered, and the police gave up and never even tried to solve those cases? You don't make enough money. You don't have enough billions. You were poor. You were working class. They're not trying to find your killer. But because he went after someone that was wealthy, someone that was a part of the system, entrenched in the healthcare system, denying claims, getting profit after profit for denying even more, wanting to implement AI software to deny even more claims, getting richer off the deaths of people. They had to make sure that they would catch the alleged killer here. And I'll tell you, there are a number of people that have came onto the show that were healthcare activists that have lost loved ones, and nobody tried to help these people. Law enforcement wasn't there to help them. The woman that just came onto the show to talk about the gentleman that was killed in Fall River, Massachusetts. Anybody trying to help the family? No. They don't make enough money. So this is seriously over dramatic. And that brings me to 11 demands. And I think Eric's going to come on to talk a little bit about this.
Hello. We're certainly in quite a moment here with we'll call it the CEO situation to watch our language on YouTube here has certainly like captured people's has certainly captured something, and there's something going on here. And so what I wanted to do kind of a connect the dots thing of like, all right, here we are, and where do we kind of go from here? Like, what do we do as like the left and the real left? And what I always go to is, let me bring this up, is MCDS is kind of what I always, let me get my thing on here, right here, is what I always kind of come back to, right? The money, corruption, demands, and solutions. And the money part is well on display here, as you were just saying. Money's ruling the show. The government, the system is corrupt. And people, if you ask people about the system of the government, do you think Congress is corrupt? You'll get a pretty high percentage of yes. So when you're going through MCDS, what I always try to get to next then is the demand. Because I think if we go from here into what is our demand, I think that really gets us somewhere. And the demand in this case is about healthcare. And if we go into our 11 demands list of demands, number 2 is the idea of healthcare for all. And you notice it's not Medicare for all, right? Medicare for all is a compromise, right? We need to be talking about real healthcare for all, a real, U.S. national healthcare system. And, the reason it's one reason it's 11 demands is the idea of turning it up to 11, like not just asking for compromises. And so, I'm saying when it comes to like healthcare, demand the whole U.S., national healthcare system, and ban for-profit health insurance, just period, as a thing. That needs to be just a straight-up demand, and reject the privatization schemes, include all the best aspects of healthcare, protect bodily autonomy, cover all aspects of healthcare. And we're also would need to deal with the pharmaceutical industry and turn it from this for-profit monster that's behind a lot of this stuff, and turn it into something that serves the public good. And so in laying that out, that's kind of what I'm trying to get to, is the idea that we need to be connecting this to real demands and saying these are the things that we need to have as the 99%, or else more stuff like's been happening is going to happen. And then just to finish up, in order to get there, then you have to get to demand number 1 and fixing the big money, because the big money is running everything. And so then you're getting into solutions and the things in there and how you get to that. So I'm proposing we connect this into demands, that we have, let me clear this up, that we're clear about that, and the solutions, and we try to make the demands back a mass movement.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Eric. And I do want to show people something that did happen outside of the courthouse. Jordan Sheraton was there on the ground. And I do want to show you guys that really quick, because I thought that was pretty interesting. Jordan Sheraton from Status Quo was there on the ground. Let's go ahead and pull this up
today.
here.
The big ones like United Health, Aetna, rarely cover mental health in network, and therapists actually refuse to use them because they don't get reimbursed enough. They don't get the right amount in order to make a living, and they also take forever to even, approve their claims. And so most therapists are actually out of network. You have to pay
to get a good therapist out of network. You're lucky if it's less than like $200 for an hour.
Exactly. In New York City, definitely above that. And so it's a crisis of chronic pain, mental health care. Chronic pain, the opioid epidemic is long-standing and continues. Post-pandemic, I think mental health and chronic pain have really come to a climax in some way. And I don't know. I think it's hopefully people feel enough of that pain to really come out and do something about it, right?
Right. And I want to get to this point here. She brought up that part about the which I thought was really important about the mental health. That's another thing that I do want to mention. During the pandemic, some of these health insurance companies, they did give, some type of leeway towards mental health treatment then during the pandemic, during the lockdowns, which goes to show you they could have been doing that all along. This, they reveal it right in front of you. And I do think that is, a necessity for some people need that for healthcare. So Jordan was outside of the courthouse of the arraignment in New York City. I want to show you part of this as well. I think Jordan comes in right about here.
It's also a form of fascism. And if you see here, you see they got pretty hefty police presence outside the courthouse here. Nicole, $5. Thanks for giving him the benefit of the doubt. Akira, $9.99. I went to school to be a cop only for them to not hire me, even though I have no record. Things keep getting more and more corrupt. Kind of glad I'm not a part of this broken system in the end. Kushush.
Yeah, so you guys see there, and this is another thing that I was going to mention as well. Again, I have seen more high profile cases where they did not have this type of police presence. Like this is insane. This is ridiculous. And again, they're trying to intimidate you. They literally brought all the king's men to escort Luigi to court. It's crazy. It's crazy, fam. Let's get to some of the comments here in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Norfolk. Amazed that Richie Torres did not parachute into the photo op to launch his campaign for governor. Surely AIPAC could have funded that for him. Hashtag pray for Richie. Thank you, Andre. There were less people taking in El Chapo. Right. SMH. Thank you for the super sticker, Lala. Thank you. Clara said, why aren't more medical staff speaking up? Because they also support the insurance companies. Because the insurance companies, a lot of the doctors support what the insurance companies want them to do. So they work hand in hand, so they're not really you'd be surprised. Thank you, the Book of Dark. Your amount and message will be public. Thank you, Brian. He would have gotten away with it if he hadn't been jonesing for a McRib. And again, we still continue to say alleged. Like, it's still weird to me that they found all of this information as quickly as they did, but other cases, we couldn't find anything. It's all weird. We'll find out more as time goes on, but it's very strange to me. Let's get the comment on Rockfin, Eric. All right. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Seeing that New York State highest court, which is the New York State Court of Appeals, said the death penalty is unconstitutional, it will be the federal government that will charge for the death penalty since he crossed state lines. Well said there, Roger. And thank you, RB Ham. Read Chaos by Tom O'Neill. Manson was a psyop, and my instincts tell me Luigi is too. To be used for the same person, to demonize along class lines. Well, I don't have any proof that Manson was a psyop. Charles Manson seemed kind of crazy to me. But we are moving on to our final story, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just zoom in a little bit more so people can see that there. Okay. And there's that too. P Stub said, Sabby, medical professionals are in fear for their jobs, especially nurses. There's that too. They could lose their job. All right, guys, we're going into our final story. If you haven't had a chance to do so, smash that like button. Thank you very much. This is a doozy, but it is going to be very entertaining. We have all seen, since Kamala Harris lost this election, that the Young Turks, also known as TYT, has decided to go in a different direction. They are shifting their position a little bit here, and they said they are willing to work with MAGA after they told everybody else that they were, clowns and horrible for doing so. After they told everybody else that they were sellouts, that they were, racist, they were frauds, all these kind of things, right? So keep that in mind. Since they have made that announcement, things are not looking too good for them when it comes to subscribers. And I want to show you what is happening here. This is wild. TYT has over 6.07 million subscribers. Now that is a decline. I'm looking at Social Blade here, by the way, if you're wondering which site this is and you like to fancy it yourself. That is a decline from before. Prior to this switch that they made, they were at 6.09 million subscribers. And if we follow me here down to December 11th, that is when things started to change. On December 11th, you will see they lost 10,000 subscribers. And on December 15th, they lost another 10,000 subscribers. So far, they have lost 20,000 subscribers since they have decided to make this pivot. So obviously, their audience is not buying it. And what was really funny, and you're going to get a kick out of this, somehow, Piers Morgan managed to get Cenk and Dave Rubin on the same panel talking about this particular issue, and words were exchanged. Oh, yes, they were. We're going to get into that. You got to know who Dave Rubin is. Dave Rubin was once a member of TYT. He was one of the commentators on TYT. He made his pivot a little bit sooner. He was on TYT. He was progressive, rah, rah, rah. And then he decided, you know what? I'm being offered more money on the right. And that was when he made his shift. He didn't stay at TYT long. He made that shift rather quickly. And ever since then, TYT has been making this criticism towards other people who are progressives that they feel have moved over to the right. And they called it pulling a Rubin. And that is why I continue to say that at the end of the day, Cenk and Anna really have no room to point fingers at Dave Rubin anymore, because now they're willing to do the same thing they criticized him for doing. Let's get into it, folks. It's pretty heated, but it's very, very, very entertaining. Listen to this.
Opportunity that, again, not to make this about Anna specifically, but anyone that's going through a wake up. We know so many people have woken up. I mean, look, for me, I think it was 2016. I did that Why I Left the Left video for PragerU. You want everyone to get there the day you do, but you have to be gracious when people come around one way or another.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in my other panel members, because some of them are definitely going on a very interesting journey, including.
He did a Why I Left the Left video, and a lot of other people followed him after that. Every time you turned around, it was a Why I Left the Left video from another person.
New MAGA enthusiast, Cenk Uygur. I said that deliberately to wind him up. The host and founder of the Young Turks. Libertarian Dave Smith, host of Part of the Problem. Lindy Lee, the DNC Finance Committee member and advisor, and former woke activist turned YouTuber, Amala Ekpunobi. Well, welcome to all of you. So, Cenk, I mean, many people saying if you carry on down the road you're going in the last few weeks, you will be a fully fledged member of MAGA before we know it.
Yeah, there's absolutely no chance of that. I'm not like Dave Rubin, a giant sellout fraud who changed all of his positions and is totally useless, and it shouldn't even be on here. He's just a waste of space.
Wow.
He came out swinging, like just immediately. He shouldn't be there. He's a waste of space. I also noticed Cenk is sweating pretty profusely, like even before this conversation started. I don't know if it was because, oh no, Dave Rubin is here. I don't know. But he just came out swinging like that. He shouldn't be there. He's a waste of space. It just, look, Dave Rubin, I don't take him seriously. Dave Rubin is trying to play the game just like Cenk Uygur is now trying to play that same game. So I don't take any of this seriously. And some people do. Some people do take it that way. I just see these people trying to move in certain ways so that they can expand their brand and they can get more money. That's just what I see. But Cenk comes out swinging at him immediately. Dave Rubin said nothing to him, but he just comes out swinging because he's getting criticized by people that are progressive, and they're saying that he is now doing what Dave Rubin did, and he has no room to criticize Dave Rubin.
Really? After what all Dave said about coming together?
Yeah. Yeah, no, got no interest in coming together with utter frauds like Dave Rubin. So, brother, you telling me that when you were on the Young Turks, you were Mr. Progressive and you agreed with us 100%. Now, all of a sudden, you agree with Trump 100%. You're not saying something nuanced like we are. Hey, you know, when the guy gets shot at and he puts his fist up, that's courageous. When he does the McDonald's photo op and it works fine, no problem, right? If he wants to cut the Pentagon, great. Those are progressive positions. Anti-corruption, progressive position. Anti-war, progressive position. But you change all of your ideology overnight and you expect us to believe that that's real? I don't think it's real at all. And I want an apology from you for all the crazy, outrageous lies that you told about the Young Turks. When is that going to happen, huh?
What?
Let's pause here for a second. Coming out very defensive. Cenk, you changed your ideology. Now, all of a sudden, you say that you're willing to work with MAGA people that are, against the wars. I don't remember Cenk being against the wars. I remember Cenk supporting the wars, especially the bombs that were dropping in Libya. He supported that. See, people may not remember this, but I remember. I do not remember Cenk Uygur necessarily being against the wars. Obviously, he has condemned what has been happening in Gaza. But even prior to that, he was never on I'm anti-war train. Never. He supported what was happening in Libya, and he supported what was happening in Syria. He defended it. He defended it on TYT. So you also changed your political ideology. I mean, you guys are willing to go whichever way the wind blows. I mean, I don't know what it is. TYT was supposed to be home of the progressives. I don't know what they're calling themselves now, but I saw this over the years, and I'll talk about the whole opportunity that he's hinting towards as well.
When are you going to admit that you changed all your positions for money? Okay. Well, what position do you still have that's in any way a so-called classic liberal, you fraud?
Dave?
Piers, it's barely worth responding to this ridiculous buffoon who's the joke of the industry. I will say this, Cenk, I haven't spoken to you in 10 years.
Even right when you're thinking you're a total fraud.
I don't think he's a fraud or a joke. I think Dave Rubin is, for what it's worth, I think Dave Rubin is one of the most influential and significant voices out there right now. And I admire his honesty about the journey he's been on, Cenk.
Piers, I appreciate that, but the thing is, what Cenk just proved is exactly what everyone in America, and I would say all over the world, is getting over. Nobody wants what he just offered up there. Not only does no one believe it, and he had it prepackaged and ready to go, and it's complete drivel. Yes, I sold out. It's just so nonsensical. Again, Cenk, I'll gladly send you a signed copy of the book, and you can read all of my thoughts. And if you're anti-corruption and you're anti-war, you should be on the Trump train. But you're endless.
But he's not anti-war. He's not. Cenk Uygur is not anti-war. Trump's not anti-war. Trump supports going after Iran. So come on. He went after Soleimani. Don't forget the drone strikes in Syria. What are you talking about? Stop it. But Cenk is not anti-war. Everybody just trying to take on these labels now, whatever works for their pocket. Because let me tell you what's happening, okay? I just showed you the numbers where they lost over 20,000 subscribers. I just showed you that. I didn't make that up. I didn't do that to them. They did that to themselves. Excuse me. They did that to themselves. And so just because they have over 6 million subscribers, you have to remember these people have made a lot of money. Cenk in particular and Anna Kasparian have made a lot of money, and they have other projects that they do on the side. And sometimes when you make a lot of money, you start taking on higher expenses. See, people don't realize this. These people got bills too. Their bills might be a little bit higher than ours because they may have taken on more expensive lifestyles. So if you become a millionaire and you get a fancy house, guess what? That fancy house has utility bills that is probably higher than mine, especially if it's a big house. So this is all about money on both sides. Dave Rubin, I don't take him seriously either. He sat right there across from Ben Shapiro's face a couple years ago, and Ben Shapiro disrespected him to his face. I remember all of that. But he on the Daily Wire with him. So as far as I see it, that's really what is happening here. They're trying to move over now because they're like, well, let us go ahead and embrace that because we need that in order to grow. Now they lost those 20,000 subs. They could get that back, especially they're the first, I think one of the first YouTube partners is TYT. So if YouTube doesn't help them get that back in some way, shape or form, like maybe they're hoping to get like conservative viewers to come in and fill the gaps that they have now, the people that they just lost. I don't know. But what I am here to tell you is they're both frauds, both of them. It's really not that serious. And once you see this, like if you've been a part of this space, you will see this. Most of the people in the space don't really care about getting anything done. Most of the people in the space really don't care about any solutions. And you'll notice that is if you're trying to organize and you ask them to participate or you ask them if you can promote it and there's radio silence. That's when you'll notice those things. Where was Cenk Uygur when we had the marches for Medicare for All in this country? Where was he? Why didn't he allow the organizers to come on TYT and promote it? I thought you were all for Medicare for All. Why wouldn't you allow it to happen? That's happened multiple times with different actions, by the way. Why aren't they there? Why are any of these people? Why isn't, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, the home of the progressives? Why is it that when people are organizing on the ground for the progressive issues that they promote multiple times on their show, how come they're nowhere to be found? How come they don't even mention it? None of the people, they send none of the people out there to participate and support these events. Why is that? Because like I learned, I'm in now my fourth year, what I've learned from being a part of the space, even when it comes to a lot of progressive media, most of the people don't really care about getting anything done. They just want to ride waves to help grow their brand and grow their channel. And if you care about getting something done and you care about solutions, that is going to bother you.
This hatred, the division that you sow, calling everyone racist and white supremacist, all of that stuff, it's why you're not respected. But I don't mean to get into the personal side of that. I'm talking about now something that culturally has shifted, and everyone can see the grift that you're up to trying to sort of dance with the thing. But it's just not necessary, and I don't think that many people will buy it.
Well, Cenk, let me put to you, Cenk, something that Laura. Hang on, Cenk. Cenk, hang on. I'm gonna read you something just to see your reaction. But Laura Loomer called you out on X, as you know, and she said this: "You are the radical left, Cenk Uygur. You're a con artist and an opportunistic grifter who's gotten rich off demonizing President Trump, calling his supporters fascists and Nazis, promoting open borders, glorifying Hamas, and pushing conspiracy theories about Trump for 9 years. If you want forgiveness, get on your filthy knees and pray to Allah, because you aren't welcome on the right and you aren't ever going to find a redemption arc no matter how hard you pander." And she goes on and on. I'm going to keep calling you out every time you try to move an inch closer to many on the right, because you're too dense and too dumb, because they're too dense and too dumb to decode your subversion, but I'm not. So look, there are lots of people on the right who think that you're on some great move here to, as she puts it, wiggle your way into the middle and over to the right, so you can then poison MAGA with your, as she puts it, subhuman political takes.
Well, before he responds, I do want to add this bit here. You can't demonize people for years. TYT has been around for a long time. You can't demonize people for years and call them idiots and stupid and, kind of like Hillary Clinton did towards voters as well. You can't do that they've been doing this for years. Trump's been running since 2016. They have been doing this for years. You can't do that for years and then expect them to embrace you with open arms and not to be suspect and not to be. It's so freaking obvious, because let's be real here, fam. If Kamala Harris would have won this election, this wouldn't even be happening. If Kamala would have won the election, this would not have happened. We all know what's going on here. If we're opening our eyes and we're paying attention. And it started in 2016. And I just want to make everybody go through the timeline. So walk with me for just a second and we'll get back to the video. It's always been about riding waves since 2016. Bernie 2016 kicked off the whole progressive movement. It was after 2016 that Cenk decided to start Justice Democrats. Justice Democrats was supposed to be an extension of the Bernie Sanders campaign, but with congressional candidates. So getting people like AOC into the House and taking over the Democratic Party. It was advertised as a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party. I remember all of this. So Bernie Sanders' popularity in 2016, TYT jumped on that wave. Then at the end, some of them said to vote for Hillary. We can get into that later. But they saw how popular the progressive policies in Bernie Sanders was. So they said, wait a minute, since Trump won, that means the Democrats were that bad that Donald Trump won. So let's try to organize people into Congress running on progressive policies to continue that Bernie Sanders mantle. That's what that was all about. So that was wave number 2. You following me? We're going to keep these waves going. So the squad members that first round got in. AOC, Cori Bush didn't get in the first time. She got in the second time. But AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and who am I forgetting? AOC, Ayanna Pressley. They got in and they became known as the squad. So that was a win for TYT. Again, that brings them more money because that was an accomplishment. Then Bernie Sanders runs for president again in 2020. Now this is wave number 3. So now they got to ride that wave of another Bernie campaign. A lot of these channels grew during the Bernie campaigns. I wasn't around back then, so you can't point to me and say I grew off a Bernie campaign. No, I did not. And I started this show in 2021. There was no campaign. Okay. So wave number 3, Bernie runs in 2020. So they're riding that wave. And there are more Justice Democrat candidates that are also running for Congress. And that was Jamal Bowman. Cori Bush was running again. Paula Jean Swearengin was running for Senate at that point in time. But long story short, Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush won. So that was another win for TYT. Bernie Sanders did not win, did not get the nomination. Dem screwed him again. But Biden went on and won in 2020. Now we go to another wave. This is wave number 4. And that was the Joe Biden presidency, where I watched TYT multiple times try to capitulate to their viewers that Biden was doing some good progressive things. Like they were really stretching this one. Okay. Then Biden became so damn terrible with the economy. And then the genocide happened. And so I'm just telling you all these waves that I saw happen. Then it was all of a sudden, let me ride wave number 5. And that was the Palestine wave. Now, some of us were talking about Palestine way before October 7th happened. And you notice who jumped on that Gaza train and then now don't even talk about it. Don't talk about Israel. Don't talk about none of that. They rode that wave. That was wave number 5. And then comes the wave of Biden drops out and Kamala comes in. This is wave number 6. So now they jump on the Kamala train wave. This is how they were growing and making, I'm telling you. So then they got on that wave telling people support Kamala, but also at the same time saying she's giving horrible answers about the genocide. She's got to, correct that. But she can do this. She can do it. They knew Kamala Harris wasn't going to win. That was to hype you up. Their job was to excite you. At least I was honest with you. When I said support Jill Stein, I told you the goal is to try to get to 5%. I didn't tell you she was ultimately going to win. I told you that would be very, very difficult. The goal we're shooting for is the 5%. At least I was honest with you. They really had their whole damn audience out here thinking that Kamala this was going to be a shoo-in for her. Then Kamala lost. The Democratic Party has nobody else on their bench that even stands a chance. We all know Pete Booty doesn't do well with black voters. We saw that when he ran in 2020. Gavin Newsom can't even fix California, and he wasn't polling well either. So keep that in mind. They don't have anybody else on their bench. And don't you dare say Cory Booker, who's a sellout for Israel, cares more about Israel than black people and had a horrible campaign in 2020. I saw him speak in person. I know. So since the Democrats have no one else on their bench and Trump won the swing states, won the electoral college, won all the swing states and won the popular vote, now they're about to go to wave number 7, which is the let's try to work with MAGA wave. They have been riding waves since 2016. I remember TYT started as like a shock jock kind of show because like back in the day, they were going around taking pictures of women's crotch. They were taking pictures of celebrity, hoo-has, and they were exposing the pictures up on the screen saying, let's figure out whose celebrity hoo-ha this belonged to. I'm not kidding. That's what they used to do. And then they moved over into politics. So the thing is, they are riding another wave. Please do not take these people at their word. It is very obvious to anybody that's been paying attention. This is what a lot of people do. It's a mess. It's a mess. Did we say camel toe? Name the camel toe. There you go. That's what it was. Like, how was that appropriate? How was that okay? Seriously? So now we see that they are going to another wave. That's all this is. They're about making that money and growing that brand. And you'll see that when I show you who they're in sponsorship with now. That's the timeline, folks. That's why I said you coming after Dave Rubin. Look, both of y'all doing this. Both of you guys did it. But your hands are not more clean because you waited later to do it.
Balls.
Yeah. Okay, so look, this is people like Laura Loomer and Dave Rubin are the exact problem. And I think actually somebody else on this panel is part of the solution. That's Dave Smith. And I want to come back to that in a second. So when you have people like Dave Rubin switch all of their positions, what happens is when you go to do nuance and you say, hey, guys, hold on, let me explain. Hold on. Yeah. Hey, go pleasure Trump again. Go pleasure Trump again.
Do you know that
he goes from Bernie to Trump and pretends. Come on, brother. Come on, brother.
I tell people what I believe in, and I'm
believe in? You believed in something yesterday. You don't believe in anything today.
Yeah, what position? What position do you think I hold that I don't honestly believe?
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
Can I answer the question? Can I answer Trump?
Yeah. What position do I say that I believe that I don't really believe? Go ahead,
brother. You went on Fox News with Tucker Carlson. You went on Tucker Carlson on Fox News and said gay people, that the fact that the fire department was recruiting gay people was why there was forest fires. You're a national embarrassment, okay?
If anyone
you pleasure those guys
that,
for a living.
You can pull up the clip tomorrow if you want.
Okay?
I was talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, that you shouldn't hire people based on their genitals or their sexual orientation. And we now all know that. You have been one of the prime pushers of all of this neo-racism. I believe in meritocracy, that whether you're going to be a doctor or a firefighter or a basketball player or anything else, you should be hired on your qualifications, not your genitals or sexual orientation or skin color. Yeah. That's actually America. So
both of you were supporting candidates and endorsing candidates that support Israel. Okay. You guys, both of you have that in common. You have this switcheroo in common. Let's stop trying to pretend like one is better than the other because both of you rode a wave. Dave Rubin just happened to ride his wave a little bit earlier. He made his pivot a little bit earlier, but both of you have done it.
You can keep trying here.
Yeah, Cenk, finish your point. Then I'll go to Dave Smith.
Listen, yes. When this country desperately needs to unite against the establishment on things we all agree on. So things like all the populists hate corruption. All the populists hate war. By the way, Dave doesn't. Dave will demand that we start every war for Israel and pay for all of Israel's war. So he's been establishment on that all along. But when you go to say, hey, can we get an agreement on things that we agree on? the left pushes back because they're so afraid. They got traumatized by the Dave Rubins in the world. They're like, oh, if you take one step, not even in their direction, if you allow the right wing to take a step in our direction, they're worried that you're going to be a fraud like Dave Rubin and change all of your positions overnight. So,
and they're right. You have changed your positions. Son Piker had a video recently that said that Cenk is conservative on some issues, but something about the abortion issue where all of a sudden he felt like he's changed his position on that too, where he didn't realize that now he feels differently about. So you did it too. What are we doing here? So that's the thing that drives me crazy.
My friends on the left, do not get scarred by this fraud of a man. There are other people like Dave Smith, who
let me bring in Dave
is a libertarian.
Right.
We disagree on other issues.
Let me bring in Dave
Smith. But we can actually unite on the things that we care about.
Right. Let me
Wait a minute. So now it's okay to talk to libertarians? I thought you were saying that was a no-no. Now it's okay. Now Dave Smith is okay. Now libertarians are okay. Now it's okay to talk to people who are MAGA. You were saying for years these people were no. Don't do that. That is a bad idea. That's not going to get you anywhere. That you shouldn't. He's like, my friends on the left think da-da-da. Like, you said those things. Cenk Uygur is on Twitter saying the far left, the radical left is a problem. I seem to remember when corporate media, all of them, by the way, referred to Bernie Sanders supporters as radical left. They called you radical left. So I remember Cenk Uygur pushing back on that and saying, no, asking for these universal policies is not radical. Now you're using the same term that corporate media used against you. So to me, that shows that you're no different. You're no different. I've warned you guys before about the people who come from corporate media and say they're trying to do independent media. I've warned you about this because a lot of times they don't really leave their roots. It's still with them.
In order to unite, you got to get past the frauds like Dave Rubin.
All right, Dave Smith, welcome back to Uncensored. Obviously, things have kicked off. I actually thought there might have been a coming together moment, and not the way it went, but it's gone the opposite way. Let's just take what Dave Rubin was saying and then how Cenk responded. But it seems to me that this big tent thing of Trump, I mean, it's very real. His popularity in America has never been higher than it is today. He's got an incredible mandate. The Republicans basically now are in charge of absolutely everything. You've got everyone who formally distanced themselves in 2016 racing down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss the ring and so on. I mean, it's a real opportunity, but it's undeniably an extraordinary coming together of people from all types of political views and so on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just say for the record that I like both Dave and Cenk.
So do I. I agree.
Cenk did work in a compliment toward me, and Dave, you weren't able to do that, so I'm going to be on Cenk's side on this issue now.
Dave, you and I have some differences. I've never gone after you. I like you, absolutely.
That's true. Listen, I don't look bigger than your guys' like personal beef. I think it's what's going on here is really kind of amazing. Well, okay, but I'm just saying if you zoom out here, I think since this last election, people are focused on this kind of realignment and the new political dynamics in America. But if you look back 8 years ago in 2016, during this election in both major political parties, you had essentially civil wars. I mean, Donald Trump came in and took over the Republican Party against the will of the establishment and the donor class. In 2016, the RNC was floating out the idea of changing the rules, as you remember well, Piers, all the way up until the convention. They were floating out the idea of trying to steal this thing from Donald Trump. Of course, that same year, the Bernie Sanders movement had to be flat out cheated by the Democratic establishment. So it's not as if these things haven't been building for quite a long time. I think what happened in this election is that the thing that unified people around Trump was one, like Dave, like you said, me and you disagree on a lot of issues. I think a lot of people who ended up supporting Trump disagree on a lot of issues. The one thing that united all of us is that we opposed the the blatant corruption of the establishment and the corporate media apparatus, which is nothing more than the mouthpiece of the regime, constantly in the business of lying to the American people in service of the regime. And this is what so this is how you're able to get someone, a liberal like Bobby Kennedy and a liberal like Tulsi Gabbard and somebody like J.D. Vance or somebody like Vivek Ramaswamy. Why they can all come together is that they all oppose the corruption that permeates D.C. that has truly, profoundly degraded this country over the last 25 years. And
well, let me correct something here. Tulsi Gabbard isn't a liberal. Tulsi Gabbard actually joined the Republican Party. I remember when she made her announcement. So she's not a liberal. She used to be, but she hasn't been a liberal at least for like a year. So I did want to correct that part there. And then I do want to get to this woman right here. You guys got to hear what this woman says. Her name is Linda Lee, and she starts to talk about like how she got attacked after she decided to leave the Democratic Party. Listen to this.
She would not inspire me to open a bag of chips. I mean, seriously. And I think that she sort of personifies now the ghost of Christmas past, as does Biden. The Democrats have got to move on quickly, haven't they?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. She's indulging delusions of running for governor in California in 2026 and perhaps even running for president in 2020. And I just want to echo what a lot of you guys already said. This past week has been harrowing for me. This Saturday, I went on Fox and Friends and I said that Democrats have a stench of loser hanging over them.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, there were boycott campaigns against me, unblock, unfollow campaigns. I lost 40,000 followers.
Really?
In 4 days. People have called me the W word. I don't know what we're allowed to say, but you can fill in the blank.
We're uncensored. Let's say it. Say it. Say what the word was.
Am I allowed to?
Yeah.
Well, they called me a whore. They called me the C word. They asked for me to be deported. And you can just search for my name in those terms on X and you'll see a bunch of them. So
I just want to pause right there because I got to say something about what she said. So she said she was called a whore, see you next Tuesday. And she said she was also told that she should be deported. And you know what I noticed after Kamala lost? I saw a number of Democrats online telling people that I hope all the Palestinians get deported. So what that shows you, folks, is that if you don't play by the rules that they want you to play by, if you don't do what they think that you should do, they'll turn on you too. I couldn't believe it at first, actually. I literally saw Democrats saying to Palestinian people, I hope you all get deported for not supporting Kamala Harris. But then they, for years, have said, look at all these conservative accounts on Twitter that are asking for people to get deported, and then you go and do the same thing. This is why I say it's a cult. And people are like, oh, no, Sabby, you got to do lesser of evil. No, Sabby don't want to do evil. And two, why are you forcing yourself to support a party that is okay with that? Because see, tomorrow, Friday, we're going to talk about the deportation that just happened under Biden and Kamala of 2 U.S. citizens. We're going to cover that. And I just want to see if all the Democrats that say they were against deportations are going to say something about Kamala and Biden deporting people. And if they don't, then you already know.
You know, all these so-called Democrats, the party of inclusion, the party of diversity, masks off. And it's even worse because they pretend to occupy the moral high ground. At least with Republicans, you know, they are who they are. But with Democrats, they pretend to be, you know, so loving and caring and embracing of diversity. But all of a sudden, when I dare to utter any criticisms of the goddess, Kamala Harris, I get ostracized. Me, after having raised tens of millions of dollars for the party. And
they don't care that you raised tens of millions of dollars for the party. She lost. They don't need you anymore. They are done with you, Linda.
I'm being called a grifter when all along, all these years, I've said on TV, I've said to the press, I'm a conservative Democrat. This is not a switch for me. This is just me. This is who I've always been.
Yeah.
And also, my donors are pissed. They raised $2.5 billion across Super PAC in the campaign. It's my responsibility. It's my duty of care to ask what the hell happened with that money? Why did we spend it? Why did we spend millions of dollars on five-star hotels for campaign staffers? Why did we spend $500,000 essentially bribing Al Sharpton moments before he interviewed Kamala? These are legitimate questions, but no, in the cult, you can't ask questions.
Yeah.
And leaving the Democratic Party or even questioning the Democratic Party is like leaving a cult. It's terrifying.
I told you guys. Now, I don't know a whole lot about this woman, but I know she raised a lot of money for the Democratic Party. And then she had some things to say about them. And apparently a lot of liberals are not happy about that. But Linda, honey, if you would have listened to some of the black voters, you would have known that liberals can be racist too. I've talked about this before on the show. White liberals can be just as racist. They do it in different ways, but they can be just as racist. So this wouldn't have been a surprise to you. But why do I say this is all a part of the plan? Why do I say it's just a gimmick and they're all trying to do these things? Because look at this. Look at who TYT has now for a sponsor. You guys know this? If you go to TYT.com, they now have Polymarket as one of their sponsors. How many people knew this? So you see this? Polymarket. Not kidding. Right on their website. Now, this is the one that, Polymarket is betting odds. And it said it did determine that or predicted that Trump would win in 2024. But TYT, look, as a sponsor, does Polymarket get to make editorial decisions at TYT? No, they don't get to make editorial decisions. But look at this. As part of the sponsorship, Cenk will be doing some additional content on YouTube Live twice a month. He'll dive into some of the charts on Polymarket. They're super interesting and help us better understand public opinion. So do you guys see this now? So, and these the people, like I told you, these the people that called all the other smaller channels like myself, they were calling us grifters. I don't have any sponsors. And I get offers. I haven't accepted any sponsorships. Why does TYT need to sponsor with Polymarket? Who's the creator of Polymarket? How far does this go? This is the Polymarket creator. Check this out. His name is Shane Copland. Shane Copland, to show you a little bit here about Polymarket. I'm going to make sure I get to the part here, because this is attached to Peter Thiel. So Polymarket is attached to billionaire Peter Thiel. Let me see if I have this. Here it is, right here. Right here. The 26-year-old chief executive, raised tens of millions in funding for the platform from various investors, including billionaire Peter Thiel's Founders Fund. So again, and I know that, TYT, they didn't invest with Peter Thiel, but still, Polymarket, one of the investors was billionaire Peter Thiel. So I do like to connect the dots here so that you guys know where it's all coming from. You gotta follow where the money's coming from. This is really important. So now you see, now they over there they got Polymarket as a sponsor. So it's all about money. It's all about money, and it's all about growing their brand. And that's what they're doing. You think all of a sudden they feel some type of empathy for MAGA supporters now? No, it's an executive business decision. That's what this is. And that's how you should look at it. Let's go with the Rockfin comments, Eric. and then I'll get to the YouTube ones. Thank you. Hey. Thank you, Roger. Sab, which courthouse in Manhattan is that? I'd like to go tomorrow to talk to them to see if any of them know about the New York Healthcare Act. I think that's the federal court, Roger. Make them realize state power, that my late friend who died last year is the one that hipped me and put me on a path to what we can get done right here statewide. The win has taken out when Assemblyman Gottfried, who first introduced it in 92, retired in 2022 after Dems took the New York State Senate in 2019, then veto-proof majority in both chambers for the past 4 years. Who's that Angela Ride look alike down at the bottom of the screen? I think she's she's another one that did Why I Left the Left. I think, or Governor Hotek, who passed single payer, might be Oregon Governor Hotek, who passed single payer, might be the Democrat surprise. When there is more money in treating systems, then the problems never get solved. This is the problem. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened there. This is the problem with pub/PVT partnerships and people with shows centering around campaigns. Stop there for just a second. Those Kamala Stan supporters who said they hope Palestinian Americans get deported for not voting for Kamala, that makes absolutely no sense for them to say that. Seeing that you can't vote unless you're a citizen and citizens can't get deported. Even though Trump said the only Americans that get deported are minors to keep families together, but even though they're citizens, they're minors who can't vote. Right, I know, people just like raging. But that being said, Roger brought up a really good point. The reason why some of these people don't want to actually tackle the solutions or be a part of the solution is because then that changes the brand. That changes the money machine. Because if you actually solve some of these problems, then you may not be able to talk about it. You got to talk about something else. That's a good point, Roger. All right. Thank you for the super chat. The Book of Dark. Wasn't Charles Manson a white supremacist? From what I read, that would be true. Thank you, Megay, part of the Exodus. Cheryl says, yes, that's exactly it. They are panicking about money. They have panic energy. Yep. Z says, solutions solve problems, solutions in the grifts. There you go. Thank you, Ashura. Where are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? And thank you for this one as well. TYT scammed their viewers of 2 million, hiring 4 people. They also took, I remember they were taking donations to hire 20 journalists. They were going to put 20 journalists on the ground. And like that never happened. Thank you, Peter. Good morning from Warsaw. In process of getting Russian residence permit and giving up U.S. citizenship. Oh, wow. Thank you so much to you and DD for opening my eyes to the sham of America's exceptionalism. Well, damn, Peter out there doing the damn thing. Peter said, I am out of here. Okay. Thank you so much. All right, guys, that is it for me tonight. Tomorrow night, there will be a panel here plus 3 news stories. Don't miss that. You are going to hear from Black male voters. They are going to sound off about how they feel about the Democrats losing. And I don't think you want to miss that. That's just going to be pretty good. Don't miss that. And I'll have 3 news stories. So that'll be cool. Sunday, Katie Halper will be here live with me. And then after Sunday, I am going on a Christmas vacay. So I won't be streaming the week of Christmas after Sunday. And then I should come back and do the end of the year review. We are going to do, I did this last year too. If you're not signed up for my newsletter, sign up for it. Otherwise, I will figure out how I'm gonna do this. Otherwise, I'll get the link for you on Sunday. I'm going to send you a questionnaire of the top 10 news stories of 2024. I've done this before in the past, and you guys are going to pick the top stories, not me. because, I'm going to come up with a couple of stories and you're going to select the top 10 or what you think are the top 10. And then we will do the top 10 news of 2024. We'll end the year with that. All right, guys, that is it for me tonight. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.